Tuesday. It's more than a day. It's a way of life. This is the Giant Bombcast. I'm Jeff Gerstmann, your host for this week's endeavor to talk about everything that happened in the world of video games and then some. Jan Ochoa is here, working the boards.
That's right. This is a cardboard. It's the back of an IKEA bookshelf. I never nailed on, but I'm using it as a partition so my household can reach the refrigerator, and no one would be the wiser.
That's smart. That's just the type of smart resourcefulness we need in these trying times. Jeff Bacalar is here. Speaking of trying times, I don't know.
Hello, sir. Unsure how to read that message, but nevertheless, I'm here and present and happy to be here.
Fantastic. And Danny O'Dwyer, same camera angle 2 weeks in a row. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I basically not sat at this seat since the last time we talked because I've been on PTO helping my wife post-op. So glad to be here, but I did squeeze in some video games, thankfully, because some video games came out.
That's been nice. There's been some games. We're starting to. We're in this weird time of the year, man. Or I guess it's a weird year, but like we're in this like pre-E3 zone where normally there's not a ton of things coming out, but at the same time, it's still coming up on the end of a quarter, and so there's probably some fiscal reason why more games would come out near the end of May. Or no, I'm sorry, that'd be the end of June.
I also wonder if the sort of expectations that we have for this year are such that any week where like, you know, a game comes out, even if it's a kind of a remaster and then another game comes out of early access, it feels like this flood of games suddenly.
Yeah, like one game comes out and then something comes out in early access and you're like, whoa. We're getting flooded here. This is crazy. What
calm down. Jeez.
Yeah. I guess that's just, you're right. The last year has been so weird. And I feel like the closer we get to E3, whatever that's going to end up being, I'm just not sure on how that's going to go. I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm comfortable. Like there's going to be some cool shit that we're going to be hearing about in sometime over the next month and a half. Like I'm there with it, but also in terms of games coming out this year and what that time frame is going to look like in terms of like excitement and press conferences and all that stuff, like that seems a little murky.
Are you getting any indication as to what's going to be in that pre-E3 week? Because I usually feel like once we start hearing some of that, then the excitement for what's coming starts to filter into the game's price, and then it kind of comes. But I've heard nothing about what's in that pre-E3 week, which I feel like a normal E3 I'd kind of know some of that stuff by now.
Right? Yeah. No, I because that pre-E3 week is supposed to be like industry days or media days or something like that where there's something there, but I don't actually know what that entails. So it's everything feels like it is like coming together, or in terms of communication, everything feels like it's coming together like super late. But I'm not sure how much of that is just like we're not one of the partnered media outlets that they listed in their press release. So I wonder if those outlets are maybe getting a little bit more information about how that stuff will go or what the deal is there.
Do you think part of that is like companies like kind of panicking about like, are we going to E3? Should we do something for E3? And then they sign up and now they're obligated to try and scramble for anything.
Yes, I think that's yes. I do think that there's with some publishers, right? I mean, like some companies didn't announce that much last year, so you would think like, oh, well, the stuff that got delayed out of last year announcement wise, maybe it shows up here. And I think there's a lot of lingering stuff. I mean, we've been talking about it for like months, that like the long-term impact of COVID on game development is stuff that we're only just now going to start to feel in this calendar year, and that's going to impact how announcements happen and all that sort of stuff. Plus just the lingering like, well, is this a real E3? Should we bring our A game to this, or should we use that time to try to promote an esports event around an existing game or something like that. So I think there's probably just a lot of different publishers looking at like thinking about a lot of different ways to spend this time, whatever they end up doing, whether it's they're a part of E3, whether they're going to have their own separate event, whether they're whatever Jeff Keighley is going to do. Like, there's just like different ways for information to get out there, and they probably have to look at it and go like, okay, what do we really have? Do we want to spend the time to make a really nice trailer for this game that we're 50-50 on even shipping this year, or do we just like do a little thing and then do our real reveal next year or later this year? Or I don't know. It's all a mess. Backlar, it's all a mess.
It seems like there's like 5 or 6 different things conspiring to making this year particularly messy and weird. Like I don't even know what Keely's doing. Like I know he's doing something, but E3's happening, so and they're also they are doing something physical pre E3 week or something, or because I guess Greg and them are doing a show, right? They're doing some sort of presentation.
I think my understanding is that there will be. It's not just pre-taped stuff per se. Is that like if Greg has been announced as the host of E3, I mean maybe that'll be pre-taped. I don't actually know, but like I assume that's going to lead to like a day of interviews or who the hell knows?
Yeah, some of the outlets are sending people to this thing, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but Anyway, we ain't going anywhere.
It is
no Del Taco this year.
Damn.
You should. You want to go, Jan? You should just go.
Should I go? Should I go to E3?
Just go.
All right. Okay.
Just get out there. Just get down there. Is it down? Yeah, it's down from you. Get down there.
Yeah.
I'll get down.
It's probably more Pokemon cards in LA than there is up here, right?
Oh,
not if it's a target you're looking for.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's very dry in LA.
What's amazing to me is like, I think E3 at this point, it's towards the end of May already, I guess you could kind of say, or past the halfway point at least. And it is very unclear exactly what is going on, but at the same time, the amazing legacy branding of E3 that carries along with it is unbelievable that this thing still feels like an important thing, even though we could be staring down what could be the most insignificant week in a very long time. Like, you know what I mean? It really is this force to be reckoned with.
It still feels like E3 season. Yeah.
It kind of does, even though I will be sitting on my ass for a week. I don't know.
I guess it's the same experience that like viewers have, right? Is like before I was in the games press, like that's all I was doing was watching live streams. So like if it's a live stream and we're there or not, it's it's the same experience,
Yeah, and then a lot of our coverage kind of pivoted into like we're going to LA to sit in a room and watch live streams, right? and then creating a live stream out of that live stream, then we're still going to the show and playing things and seeing stuff and getting in front of people. Like that's a big part of it. Is like, okay, let's get these people on the couch and do these interviews. Let's do this, and like that became the big thing for us, especially as like it just seemed like fewer and fewer games were the show. I mean, the last like 2019 E3, it's still on my phone for some reason, or still in my like iCloud library or whatever. There's like a 20-minute video I shot with Dan Reichert where we stumbled into an empty back room at E3 where there was nothing there, and just like hung out and walked around the show floor and just had a normal volume conversation that I could record on my phone. Gosh. And there wasn't shoulder to shoulder people. There wasn't there was empty space where normally there'd be a booth. And it was this feeling of like, this already feels wrong. So it was already headed in that weird direction anyway. And I mean, in some ways, I'm sure the pandemic is like a chance for the ESA to get a little bit of breathing room to figure out what's really next, because expectations are a little bit low. Whereas I think if they had to have a physical show last year in the wake of everyone canceling on them and going like, we don't want to be a part of your mess, that they would probably be in much worse shape. And that's why I think it still holds that sway. I found my notes. They're not good notes. I kept a diary of sorts, a very short one because I got bored with it from the very first E3.
Oh, wow.
And and going through my garage, I found like my half-assed attempt to write things down, and it was like a list of N64 games that Nintendo had at their booth, and just go like, yeah, Cruising USA frame rate seems like shit. But also,
was this
like
Atlanta? Is that
no, this was
the
LA.
first one in LA?
It was LA for a really long time, and then they ran into a situation where the convention center was booked up for some chunk of time. And so for those years, they had to go to Atlanta, and then they came back as soon as they could.
It's the closest convention center that wasn't booked.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so it was always the convention center in LA, but I was staying in a beach house on Venice Beach.
Nice.
That was a friend of mine, was Glenn Rubenstein, who comes up more and more these days as we talk about this old shit. It was his mom's boss's beach house.
Wow.
And so we were like, I would have been 20 or so at this point, I guess, 19 maybe even. And so it's like us going down there, and it's like notes of like, I walked up to the very first hot dog on a stick that is on the Santa Monica Pier and had some hot dog on a sticks. And that's really, it's like not even notes about the show. It's like,
I went to Muscle Beach.
Exactly. It is notes about like, boy, but then notes like, Deion Sanders called Steve Young a homosexual slur. Like, so Deion Sanders must have been at some event at E3 or something like that. Wow. I don't know. And
classic
so
E3 moment.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely classic E3 moment. Neon Deion.
It must. That is part of like the love of E3 is getting, like, there used to be a whole thing where all the UK outlets on the day after E3, they'd all get together and go to a gun range, because like there is like a culture. Okay. The LA culture is kind of steeped in, I can't remove the two either, staying at like a hotel with a, one of the shittier hotels that all the publishers are in the nice hotels, right. And all that good food and the sunshine, and it feels like all the UK press would always say like, oh my God, we're like in GTA, you know what I mean? Because it just feels like it feels like that. So that's the stuff you miss, right? Is drinking around the back of the hotel in the alley and hanging out with everyone. And
I don't know, there was one year that the entire GameSpot, because we were not drinking the alley people, but GameSpot very much was. So they were down there, and they're just like singing Tenacious D at the top of their lawn. Maybe you were even down there, because I think you might have still been there at this point. And I'm just like sitting in my room typing, like writing something up or editing a podcast or doing something, and I just hear like this crowd of idiots singing fucking Tenacious D down there, and I'm just like shaking my head going, goddamn kids. And,
that was the moment alley, you realized you're old.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. That alley holds a different significance to me that I was thinking about recently. That alley behind that hotel is where I first heard about Titanfall.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yes.
That's the best thing that ever came out of that alley.
I should go to that alley this year then, huh?
I know. Yeah.
It was, gotta say.
Like everyone knew, Respawn had started up and done their stuff, but their game hadn't been announced. You knew it was going to be like a Game Informer cover or something like that. And at some point, someone just sent a PDF that was just, and I only saw a certain number of places that this company could have come out of. I don't actually know, because I think it got sent anonymously. I don't remember how I got my hands on it, but someone sent me a PDF that was just the Titanfall pages of that Game Informer.
Oh, wow.
And said like, check this shit out. And so like 2 days before that cover hit, or like the day we drove down to E3, like as I was driving down, it got sent, and so I got out and opened it up and went like, holy shit. Like they're making a mech game. What the fuck is going on? And right. I remember like getting everyone crowded on my laptop and go, look at this shit.
The military shooter guys, because that was like it was surprising that they went in this like futuristic direction, and like
like what are the Call of Duty people doing next? And you're like, oh, is it like Mech Warrior? Like, hang on, what are they? What now?
Mech Warrior, like, do they really want to make, like, is there a thirst for this type of game?
Right, yeah. At the time, it seemed a little weird, but turned out fine.
Yeah.
That was that. That's when I think about that alley. I think about Well, I think about two things. I think about seeing that Titanfall thing and then being parked there after E3, editing the last night's podcast from the day before, sitting in my car, waiting. I had to upload it on the hotel Wi-Fi, even though I was checked out. So I had to stay close enough to the hotel to upload it. And so I'm like in my car editing this podcast to post it. And then I was also waiting for my wife, who was busy at the time. I was like, okay, well, I've got like 2 hours to kill here, so I'm just gonna I guess I'll just hang out in this parking lot, and it'll be quiet for once because E3 just happened. And then
I feel like we glorify that alley in a way that, yes, those were fun times. We were with each other, and that was great.
Yes.
We also need to make it very clear that it also fucking sucked. Like, right?
Yeah.
We need to make that abundantly clear. Okay, it's you take the good with the bad there.
I think there's a certain amount of this entire line of work that you could probably say that about. Like, it is easy to look back on, like, remember that crazy shit we did? And then you think about it in terms of like, wow, did we get completely exploited by a corporation in our early 20s to work every waking moment in E3? Did that happen? Are we, when we talk about crunch, are we really talking about us and how it used to be?
Why isn't everyone at the team staying at this shitty hotel?
Yeah,
right. How come all the salespeople are at the nice hotel?
Wait,
your hotel that steals internet from the USC campus across the street. Why is that?
What, does your elevator go to 12 every time you get in it? If you're going up or down?
Where one elevator just didn't work? You remember that one?
Yeah.
Where it was just
worse
like,
to hear that it went up to 12. It didn't matter if you were fucking going up or down. It always sent you to 12.
You know, I have a weird sort of shattered memory of E3. I feel like I can recall years where I was genuinely excited to get on the ground and start poking around and really feeling the vibes and feeling the scene. And then I remember one year, this couldn't have been more than my like third or fourth E3. And I had like overbooked so many appointments. You know, every now and then you'll get a year where it's just sequel fucking, you know, Disasterville. And you're just like, Far Cry 11, what do we do? You know, like that kind of thing. And I just remember my first appointment being at Ubisoft and like getting there. And I don't know. I am a relatively positive dude for the most part, especially, you know, hanging around people I like. And I just got there and I just had a shit face on me and I just not happy to be there. It was day one, barely. And it was just, I was like, there's no way this E3, I am not going to allow this E3 to be fun. This is going to be dog shit. And I don't know. But then years go. I have memories of years that were just actually a lot of fun. So,
I think I must have had like the easiest job at E3 because I've never not had an E3 that I didn't like love. But all I had to do was be on the stage and interview people. So I didn't have to, I was never late for anything. People were coming to me. I didn't have to do that whole run across the show floor and then going back the other way. So like, you know, there were long days and you had to do a lot of like research and stuff and be like, you know, paying attention for long periods of time. But, you know, it's the same as you, Jeff, with the evening shows. It was kind of like, I enjoyed that stuff. And it was fun because they all just came to you and you got to talk to a new person for 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't start doing that until 2007, which was the Santa Monica hotel year where everything was just spread out along that pier. And so it was like, for me, it was like this weird homecoming of like, for the first two E3s, that's literally where I was staying. And so it was like, oh, this is like, it's kind of awesome. I can go to that fucking hot dog on a stick from 1995. It's still there.
Was that the year GameSpot rented like that tiki bar or something? Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was like whatever restaurant it was, whatever, that like then like Mario Lopez did a show out of there a year later or something like that. Or I forget what it was. But yes, we rented out a restaurant and did the stage show there. And so that was the perfect, like Rich just sat there the entire time and people came to him. I, at some point, I took appointments because like, for me, I don't think I can just sit. I don't think I could sit there for the full 3 days without feeling like I didn't see the show. So like I took a few appointments at hotels. I'm like, I need to run to this hotel and see Square and see what the hell, it's a Final Fantasy. Oh, great. Okay. Why did I take this appointment? Kingdom Hearts. God damn it. Run away. But like then I went to the airplane hangar, which is where they kind of had a cobbled together show floor. Like I finally had enough time where I think I was wrapped up for most of the morning on day 3. And so I just got in a cab and said, "Take me to the goddamn airplane hangar," or whatever it was.
Was that the place where they did Call of Duty Elite? It's like around there.
I think so. Yeah, it was like Santa Monica.
I didn't realize they used
still pretty close to there, but I didn't actually go to that event, the Call of Duty event, but I think yes. And so they turned that into a show floor where there was just the standard kiosks and all that other stuff. But I didn't have a ton of time, so like I got there, walked straight to Burnout Paradise, played Burnout Paradise, talked to Alex Ward for about 2 minutes, and then turned around and got back in a cab and went back to the restaurant.
That was a good one game to have played at E3.
Yeah, but like but it was day 3 and my brain was I felt like total shit. So I got there, played the game. I'm just like crashing into the rear and just crashing into cars over and over again and going like, oh fuck. And Alex is watching me and I'm sure he's just like on fucking. I was like, I'm just a mess. I'm a goddamn disaster. It's day 3 of the goddamn show. And then went back to host or help with the wrap up. That was the year we did Rock Band on stage for like the final segment of the show when all that stuff was happening. And
that was a good live show. I was
watching. It was a fun live show. That was like
o'clock in Ireland.
That was the year that I think it was maybe one of the first times that GameSpot had interviewed Jade Raymond, and she was at Ubisoft at the time, and she had a full camera crew following her around. Like Ubisoft had been like, "We're gonna strap a rocket to you and film all this stuff." It was like, so it was just this weird vibe of just like someone's coming in to be interviewed, but they've got a full crew with them. This is super strange.
Weird.
And I felt bad for her because it didn't seem like that was something that she was like asking for or demanding or something like that. It was just like, what is happening? This seems like a weird circus. And
07. That was like early. That was like original Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
Era then. Wow.
Yeah. That would have been that would have been that era. It was just a strange. But yeah,
Ubisoft strange.
Ubisoft, yeah, I know. Who could imagine? But yeah, I don't know. I think when I think about E3, like the work getting ready for the show was always the pain in the ass. But like once all the appointments are booked and you have it all lined up and you know what you're going to do, I actually found it all really exciting because you would get there and as soon as you would get on the ground, you would hear 5 new things. It was always like once you're in town and you can have a conversation face to face, not on a phone. No one's sending an email. No one's writing this down. Like someone's going to walk up to you and say like, "Hey, here's everything that Nintendo is showing at their briefing." And you're like,
at the pantry. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You end up
in the just walking.
Someone tells you,
or you go on the stage floor and you do the walk around, right? Because we had exhibitor badges with GameSpot, so you could like, you could go in beforehand and be like, "Oh shit, that's what they're." I mean, but they tried in later years. They tried to cover up some of that stuff, right? Because they
dodge forklifts as you made your way to the little area that Nintendo was like.
Hard hats.
I never understood. That was their strategy for 4 years straight. Was like, try not to get flattened by some sort of heavy machinery, and come with us on this obstacle course to our full. Like their booth was done. They were the only booth. Isn't that like? I feel like we haven't talked about that enough. Where they just figured it all out, got people in a day or two early, right?
Yep.
And had everyone congregate inside of their little booth with the backup beeps and the sort of like hard hat clanking and all the other shit going on, and you were just like, you could watch our Nintendo Direct 4 hours earlier. Here you go. And it was just like, all right, that's a strategy. I like it.
Yeah. And then like, we often did not get invited to those briefings for one reason or another. But you would have someone walk out of that briefing and immediately, or you'd run into them 20 minutes after they got the briefing and like, so no, but it was, I don't know that it was ever you. Maybe once, but like I feel like it was like someone from another publication would just be like, "Oh yeah, we saw that stuff in Nintendo." It was like, this stuff looks cool. Metroid, the Metroid this, Kid Icarus this, or not even those games, but Kid Icarus at one point. But it was like, oh yeah, they showed this thing, looks super weird, and so someone would just give you their secondhand impressions of everything they just saw in the Direct, and you'd be like, "Huh, all right." But as we got more and more into the live streaming, talking over the top of it, I think it got to a point where it was like I almost didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Because it's always weird going, because you don't want to be the guy who's like, as the trailer is starting, go like, "Oh, I know what this is." Like, that's stupid. That's not fun for anyone. But at the end of the day, I feel like I know enough bits and pieces as to who's going to show what and when. that it ends up being a little awkward at times. So I'm like, is this the thing? I shouldn't say this out loud because it might not be this for another 20 minutes, and that would be weird for me to do. But yeah, you end up in some strange situations like that. But like I love E3. Like I've had, because even when it goes completely sideways, they are some of the most interesting and adrenaline filled problems to solve.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this show's going to happen one way or the other, and we've just got to figure it out. And so there was 1 year where someone had a family emergency and had to leave, and the one I keep going back to is like, someone had a family emergency and left, and kind of left me in charge at a time when I was too young to have been left in charge of anything. And the site was down because we had redesigned it, and the site couldn't handle anything. So everything was completely broken. We could not publish anything to the site. And then the head of editorial was like, I gotta go. Keep this thing from burning down. Okay. And had to kind of just try to. It went fine. Like, you know, we couldn't publish anything until day 3. So in that or midday day 2, or, you know, but like the site would just crash. The site, you know, we redesigned with the ZDNet Planet because we had just been acquired. And so we did this full on redesign, and it sucked, and morale was at a huge low because people were like, should I even go to my appointments? And so it was like, yes, go see the appointments, go like do your damn write-ups. There will be a website someday, even if it's not there today. We're still going to want to have this shit 3 days later. So just like, go keep on task, I guess, was what I had to keep saying to people in one way or another. But like, yeah, I think by day 3, the engineers had ironed out enough stuff to where people could view the website at least. But yeah, that for me was a crazy one. There have been years where like the show starts and the whole internet in one of the halls goes down, and you're trying to run a live show, and you're like, well, we're just going to tape all this and we'll run it later. Like to me, like that's always the fascinating stuff, was like, here are the weird ways we're going to solve these problems, and technology didn't exist at the time for us to do it the right way. So it'd be cases where like the press conference tape handoff, in the era when we weren't live streaming press conferences because that type of internet wasn't easy to get at the locations where Nintendo would be doing stuff like the Biltmore or wherever, there was that thing of like, okay, we're going to record all this thing on a tape. Then you will eject the tape. You will run out to this alley. Tyler will be in this fucking SUV. You will hand him the tape. Trevor will take the tape and start digitizing it on a laptop as you are driving to the convention center. Then you will run all that thing inside to the booth. And as it is finished digitizing, you will then upload it to the internet. And so it was like a fucking episode of fucking 24 every time. Man. And like that chaos was crazy. No one was doing
so
that.
Exciting.
No one should have been. Yeah, it was super exciting, but it was like it felt like we were like breaking ground. And then you look back on it and you're like, what did we, we were like breaking our necks to put out a publisher's advertisement. We got to get the exclusive on this trailer, and you're just like, it's just so not what things are about anymore. And we're better for it, but like that shit was crazy, but like in a really fun, weird way of like, we are at war, and we've got to get the tapes.
And everyone like figuring like the problem solving that would go on in those situations where, you're kind of like working as a team.
Yeah.
I remember there was the stuff that would happen on the GameSpot stage would be like somebody from like a big new game turns up, and we didn't know before the game hadn't been announced, so we didn't know the details of the setup, and then they turn up and we're like, do you have video of this, or do you have something? And they're like, oh, we have it on a laptop. And you're like, oh, can we play it live? And they're like, yeah. And then sort of like winking at Eric Tay to make sure that they like route it through something so we can get clean gameplay capture that then later we can lift and put on the site as like exclusive gameplay, which will probably do millions of views. And then also like, make sure we have the feed for the stage show. It was all that sort of like problem solving with a team is just like fun, right? Like that's, it's tiring and it's difficult, but it's cool.
It's
right?
like,
but even like that.
I was going to say, it's like, oh, here's the laptop. Yeah, that's what the game's on. It's got S video out.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was gonna say.
You got to figure out a way to turn that into component, and then what we'll do is we'll get that component digitalized and get and you're just like, well, okay, that's all right. We'll just MacGyver our way through all this stuff. I do want to say this real quick, okay? I don't think E3 will really ever be the same ever again. And my last memories of E3, the last one I was at was 18 because I kind of elected not to go in 19. If you guys remember, why would you? That's a selfish ask of me, but I didn't go and I wasn't there. And I'd be on the couch at night watching the live show, and I would have a bit of FOMO
remorse.
There, and sort of being like, I'm happy with this decision, but not at this very minute. Seeing stuff going on, and those are my great memories of E3. When I sort of, I don't want to say stop like doing what I need to do for my job. I didn't do that, but I would definitely find myself hanging out in that Standard Hotel a lot and being around this crew and this. And I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys can confirm this with me, but the smell that the Standard has when you get off that floor, right? There were two, so we would like go on the third or the fourth floor or second or third. They would sort of like alternate every other year. And there was like this certain, like,
musk.
I don't know if it was like the HVAC system there or whatever it was, but I just knew right away, and I could pick that smell out of a lineup right now if you had it for me. I'd be able to figure it out. Anyway, there's something about watching that show happen, feeling like an actual real life TV production, even outside of like the streaming environment in which it was in. It was just something like this well-oiled machine. It was this really dope atmosphere. Feeling super important, just being there and soaking all that in. I know that's never going to be the same, probably. However, all this stuff shakes out. So I'm glad that my memory of E3 is that stuff, however it looks like in the future. And, there's always something so special about that kind of vibe going on in there. And yes, did it help that like my first, E3 where I was sort of embedded with you was the Lang phone fiasco. That didn't hurt. But yeah, that was good times for sure. I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah. That's we got to we definitely got to do some really goofy shit along the way, and I hope we get back to some form of that. If it's not next year, then year after, or whatever it ends up being. I don't want E3 to go. I don't want the idea of a physical trade show to go away, because it is really fun to go interview people in that environment, and we can only do that if everyone is collecting in one city to do it.
Right.
Right. And I want to do more of that. So yeah. Anyway, that's we're gonna cover E3. We're gonna do some E3 stuff as it happens and as it all firms up, and we'll have more details on that. But we're going to talk over some press conferences. We're going to try and do some interviews. It ain't rocket science. That's the sort of stuff we're going to try to do. So let's talk about some video games.
You can't miss an E3, Jeff. You can't start missing E3s now.
They didn't have one last year, so I win, right? I mean, I'm free, right?
Yeah, you beat
the curse.
I
is
win.
Broken. Yeah, you're undefeated.
Yeah. So
the monkey paw has curled. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right. We'll see.
Keeley is still clearly stuck in it because he had to make up in E3. The curse is so strong with him; he had to generate one by himself. So, our thoughts and prayers with Jeff Keeley.
I like this world building you've endeavored. Yeah, this is all right.
Game mess grows every year. Let's talk about some video games. The biggest game, the only game that matters, the freshest CBT. That's why you're here. I know you'll love that CBT. Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. They ran a weekend beta, and I played a handful of that. It was kind of slammed, so it wasn't always really easy to get in. But I did get in on Friday night for a while and played through some of it. It's a weird thing. They are so they announced this a while back. It is a new Phantasy Star Online. So it's a new free to play action RPG, I guess is what I would call it. Not really an MMO per se, but but it is, it's a loot shooter. It's a Diablo-esque in some ways, and they have rebuilt it in a lot of ways for a new Genesis. The story, I guess, is that they, instead of just building a new episode of content on the old engine, they said, why don't we just make a new thing? But for whatever reason, they still called it PSO2. So it's strange because it's a new planet, a new town on that planet, and all this other stuff around it that feels like a different story than what the PSO2 story as much as it has one has been. And so I wonder why they kept the 2 on it, if they just shouldn't have called it 3, or if they should have just taken the number off of it completely and just said, like, it's Phantasy Star Online New Genesis or whatever. But it has a lot of elements from that previous game, but also they have made dramatic changes to it in ways that I'm not sure how it'll go down with different segments of the community. I had a good time with it. They have totally revamped. Okay, this is going to sound crazy, and maybe not to any of you, but someone out there listening is going to be like, what? And get either really angry or really excited. You can just hold down the shoot button and it'll keep shooting.
What?
Exactly.
Wait, what do you mean?
Game changer.
In previous Phantasy Star Online games, there was a timing-based system where you could basically execute 3 attacks, and there was a timing to it, where in PSO2, they actually had a little timing bubble that would, like, when it got to its smallest point, you hit the button again, and you would shoot a little bit faster and kind of like cancel an animation almost, and be able to kind of keep shooting. And so, but everything was burst fire. It would be like, and then you hit the button again, then you hit the button again, and maybe the third press would be a heavy attack instead of a normal attack. Here, with your normal attack, when you are a ranger, which is the only class I think is worth a fuck in any video game ever, apparently.
Whoa! Shots fired.
Exactly. You just hold that damn button down and it just keeps shooting. You still have heavy attacks and different things you can do, but it seems like that timing element of it is not there, and it feels so different as a result of that one change that it's like it just feels like a different thing, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing, because like maintaining that timing as you were in combat was like it was not a challenge. It became second nature very quickly, but it was like another thing you had to kind of keep track of as you were playing.
Right.
And without that, it's weird. But it still feels good. And so you have like dashes. You're much more nimble. You can do a big double jump and glide up in the air and kind of glide down, and that stuff is pretty different, but still fun to do. But like out of a dash, you can attack. And so it's weird because the dash attack with a gun, of all things, which is like, how is that going to do more damage? But like you do this like spinning slide and you shoot, and that does way more damage than your normal attack. So I found myself just like starting to run and then immediately doing the dash attack and then running again and doing it again and trying to figure out what was faster. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, so like it looks nicer. I like the aesthetic of it. And you could just walk out of this. Is gonna, again, if you're playing normal video games, you're going to be like, why does this matter? But you can just walk out of the town and then you're in the wilderness fighting. There's no like, I need to go here and start a quest, and then I'm warping to the quest zone, and then I'm doing this. Like, there's still that element of it in some cases, but like you could just walk out and start shooting stuff. Weird. Okay. It's like it's a real video game almost. So they've revamped a lot of that sort of stuff. You can do like a wall kick for more mobility and things like that. But every inventory menu, or not every, but a lot of the inventory menus and a lot of the like, I need to level up my gun and I need to feed this to my other this and this, all that stuff is exactly the same. And that was the stuff that was like oftentimes really confusing and frustrating about the last game was what do I equip and why? What are these numbers? Which numbers go up? How do I make it go? Sometimes that stuff is not clear.
Weird.
As clear as it should be.
That's the stuff you would have assumed they would have cleaned up with it being a free-to-play thing, right? It's like I can imagine that with the shooting as well. Maybe they pull back some of the, more esoteric elements of the game to try and appeal to a broader audience. But yeah, like onboarding and getting players to keep playing is kind of crucial for a lot of that stuff. So it's how close to release is this thing? Because you said there's a beta, right?
Out in June.
Ooh.
So
okay.
It's pretty close.
So they're not changing the inventory system.
No, I don't think they'll replace every menu in the game if they haven't at this point. So I wonder, because again, I didn't really get to. It seemed like there were some changes there, and again, these are going to be things that, like, if you've played any modern video game, you're going to be like, well, great, they're doing that finally. Like stuff like you would have to go to the equip screen to equip, and if you looked at your main inventory and hit a button on an item that you're like, I want to equip this, you just couldn't do it from there. You had to go leave that menu, go back into a different menu. Like, they've streamlined some of those pathways through the menus in ways that, like, a goddamn current video game should, and so half credit for that. Congratulations. But at the same time, like, damn, like, this should have been done years ago in the other game. So it's strange. I think it will be a little bit divisive, but if you think it through, a lot of the players playing Phantasy Star Online 2 are just playing for the fashion at this point anyway. They want to make cute anime ladies that might be robots and might not be.
Can you still do that?
And so they look better than ever. Rendered fingers, all this other like all this other stuff, like the models, the character models just look better overall. And you can still equip a voice that talks about, like, I'm gonna scatter you to the four corners. So every 8th time you hit the button, my guy will just say that like he did in the other game. So at least they're sticking to the lack of voice lines. I had a good time with it, but I can't tell yet if that's just because it was new or if because it's actually better. And I've definitely seen some people be like, "Hey, I think this game's way worse." So I'm curious to see when it comes out next month what the actual thing feels like, because the beta didn't have a ton of content in it. It's just a CBT, just a little CBT, just a little something for you to do on the weekends. So. Yeah, that's my trip report, I guess, from PSO2 New Genesis. Mass Effect, you've heard of it?
Yeah.
Back?
Sure. It's back, but it's not. Dead. It's the old one, not a new one. New one. No one likes the new ones. Let's remake the old ones.
Yeah, well, they're going to make a new one, and this is them paving the way for trying to, like, cleanse the timeline, if you will, and make people accepting of a new Mass Effect. They put out Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and it's all 3 games, what goes into one thing. It doesn't have the multiplayer. It has almost all of the DLC.
How you feeling about it?
Oh, what's that face for? That face is a face that says...
I see a grimace.
It has not been long enough, I think, was the realization I came to when playing through Mass Effect 1, is that I still remember too much about playing Mass Effect 3 and what that experience was like.
Interesting.
That like going through 1 and 2 again. I think Mass Effect 2 is an amazing video game, and of course, of the trilogy, it makes sense it would be one of the best. It's the story at its most open point on the diamond, right? Before they have to start making good on all the player choices in 3D and getting it to a point. And I think that as much as I want to see that game again, and as much as I love the aesthetic of Mass Effect and how the ship looks and the armor and all this other cool shit, I even like all the lens flare that they threw all over every part of that thing. I think about the years I spent thinking about Mass Effect in between games and thinking about, like, 2's coming out. I wonder what they're going to do with this choice I made in the previous game, or like that promise of, like, hey, we're going to try to respect player choice and all this other stuff, and then getting to 3 and seeing how many things were just like, we're going to put a bow on this as quickly as we possibly can. There are a handful of things that we want to make a big deal about, but the ones you care about might not be the ones that we put a lot of effort into. So here's this, like, 2-sentence thing that wraps up this quest that you started 7 years ago. Or whatever.
So are you down on it because unlike when you played Mass Effect 1 the first time or 2 the first time, the disappointment that's coming down the road?
Yes,
it's like You're like, oh, that sucks.
It's like, why would I invest all this time in playing Mass Effect 1 and 2 again if what's waiting for me at the end of it is Mass Effect 3?
That's dark. Oh my god.
And it's like watching Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Wait,
Three's, I like 3.
Did I? Yeah, 3's
Three's
fine.
the Western one, right?
Yeah.
Certainly is.
They filmed them
I don't
like
know.
back to back, and it kind of shows.
Yeah, that's cool. There was a trailer for 3 at the end of 2. Who
Yeah.
fucking does that?
yeah.
Outrageous.
The Matrix,
You know?
did it. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Avatar will probably do it
All right.
soon enough.
Yeah.
We'll have a
but
trailer
yeah,
for
I think
4 and 5 at the end of 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's probably the problem for me. I think they're like mechanically, Mass Effect 3 is a great game. I think that some of the things they even did to try to make it appeal to a wider audience, I think are fine. But like for me, it was never about the ending of Mass Effect 3. When the whole world went crazy about the ending of Mass Effect 3, like I kind of just was shrugging, going like, what about the rest of it? What about everything that gets up to that ending that is like tossing off these things that you really cared about? And like they don't matter at all. Like that really bummed me out playing through 3. And so
Matt,
not enough time has passed.
I don't think I had that experience with I can't, it's so hard to tell because of it's been so long, and also the choices were probably different, but
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I ever finished 3 because people were giving out about the ending, and I kind of stopped at some stage. Like I was like 70% the way through.
Yeah, but what was your galactic readiness? How did you?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember that? I forgot
Right?
about that.
That was
Dude,
the
that's
other
a
part.
Weird metric.
So
Yeah.
in some ways, this is probably going to end up being the best Mass Effect 3 you could get these days because, because they have retooled that mechanic because they no longer have a mobile game and a multiplayer mode that you can grind out galactic readiness in.
Oh yeah.
So they have to kind of retool a lot of that stuff. And they've been out there saying like, we're not opposed to bringing multiplayer back to Mass Effect 3 if that's what people want, which is funny because at the time people were so pissed, but then like the people that really liked Mass Effect 3 multiplayer apparently really, really liked it.
I think I did really, really like it. I think I
was
stopped
okay.
playing through the main story and just started like
Yeah.
using my virtual arm knife sword to stab dudes.
I think that's what I did too.
Yeah.
I remember bouncing off the campaign.
Yeah.
Did that feed back into the galactic readiness stuff?
Yes.
The multiplayer
Who
did
can
too.
remember?
Okay.
Yeah. Who can remember that? I don't know.
Man, it does seem like that decision
you could like
was
buy
made in a
Doritos,
boardroom.
I think, to even. But yeah, so yeah,
I did buy
Yeah.
too many Doritos when that fucking game came out.
What?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Was it? Were we talking about that last week? That like Mass Effect 3 came out at a time when EA was at its most kind of cutthroat. Maybe that's in the quick look. I think I was talking about that when we were live streaming.
Right.
But like
Dead Space 3 time, that whole era.
sort of, kind of, yeah.
kinda-
But like so, when Mass Effect 3 came out, they issued press releases around it, trying to say like, "There's never been a better time to start playing Mass Effect than with Mass Effect 3," because they knew what Mass Effect 2 sold. And if they only sold to a percentage of players that wanted to finish the fight, that was not going to be enough money for them to make that game. And so they were like, we have to get this to a point where we are selling it to more and more people. And so what do we do to the game to try to make it more appealing to new players along the way? And you're like, wait, you want to have new players just start with Mass Effect 3? That probably contributed to some of those decisions that you made in 1 and 2 maybe not getting the shine that I wish they did, because at some point, like Mass Effect 3 just was trying to serve too many different audiences, and then they had the multiplayer, and then they were like, what if we did this mobile thing? Can we put these microtransactions in here? Can we do this? Can we, it was one of the games I remember being early on in like the loot box conversation, because you were literally buying
Oh yeah, remember that.
crates and opening it up being like, I got a higher level gun than I had before, and now I'm just better at this horde mode than I was before. And stuff like that. So like Mass Effect 3 came out at a really weird time, and so I think some of that stuff is not necessarily like the fault of the people who made that game, because I think corporately they probably got forced down some pathways that maybe were not the right thing for longtime players of the game. But yeah,
It's weird.
The
diamond you're talking about is like, I feel I just thinking about Resi last weekend with Resident Evil 8, where like I feel like I have the experience with lots of games where the possibility space is open and like anything can happen, and then at a certain point you kind of realize what the game is, and then for me at least at a certain stage, I just kind of want it to end. I'm kind of like, I liked Resident Evil 8 because it didn't overstay its welcome, and weirdly enough, I had the same feeling with Mass Effect 3 where and I totally see where it's coming from. A lot of people echo those concerns that like some of the decisions they made ended up being sort of like pushed to the side or not relevant or not really acknowledged in any way. But I think for me, I was just looking to get it all done. That whatever. I don't fucking care. That guy's there. Oh, look, Rex is there, or he's not there. I don't know.
I definitely got to a point with that where like so many things had been disappointing along the way that there was, but like I feel like the game was built in such a way that it was like, just wrap it up, just get it done, get your Galactus ready up, and then go do the final thing.
How many people did you have survive too? Maybe that was part of it as well.
All of them, baby. I wasn't.
Oh, you did
around.
Me too.
I had a bunch too.
Yeah.
Just do the cycles.
I only finished 2 because I heard there was like a possibility that I could lose a lot of people in that last little bit there. So I was like, all right, I'll roll the dice. I'll see what I'm dealing with.
That is like one of the most like tense gaming experiences of my life. That last.
Kind of just pick them off. Yeah,
because you know it's like, oh, here's the Jack bit, or here's the Garrus bit. You're like, oh shit. It was so good.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things that like in the moment it's awesome, and then when you go back and look, like once the game came out and everyone kind of picked apart, like here's exactly how the suicide mission works, and you look at how the dials turn, and like if you did this and did this, this person lives. If you did this but didn't do this, this happened.
Right.
And you just look at it and go like, that's way less interesting than it seemed in the moment, and I think that's ideally what you like. You just want it to feel like it's yours. You want to feel like you have ownership over those choices and over that story. And Mass Effect 3 takes too much of that out of your hands. That's my problem.
It's funny. The remake though is like, how do you think about how it plays? Because I'm not that far. I've only gotten to the Citadel in 1, so I'm like, I don't know, like 2 hours, 3 hours in or whatever. But they've done a lot of like the whole, because there was a lot of like UI and combat stuff in 1 that was not great. That they seem to have pulled the 2 sort of controls, and the interface definitely looks a lot different. So it seems like they've done some good jobs there, and they've also, I think they've scaled the leveling differently now. It's like
it's 1 to 30 instead of 1 to 60. It's it's they've changed the way some of that works. You can toggle the old leveling on if you prefer it, and which I don't know why you would. I just, that's the sort of thing like those bits of it are those bits of it are kind of lost to time to me. For me, it is the story of that game and Shepard's journey through those games that sticks out. So like the little bits and pieces, like Mass Effect 1's interface is something that I didn't remember, but like going back to it, there are elements of inventory management in this new Mass Effect 1 that I think is too much. It's like a little bit too much in terms of like, okay, like the UI seems too big, like the text seems too big for the amount of inventory you want me to manage right now, it still seems like a little too fiddly. Like you're still messing around with a little bit too much.
It feels older than I thought it would. Like even just the, I granted again, I've only played that little sort of that, the opening area on what is it, Eden Prime. It's very much the tutorial sort of the game, but
totally.
It was funny how like, the combat, even just like the way powers work, like the pulling up the power wheel to then select them, and the way that you do all the squad stuff. Like I had recently played, I think I talked about, I'd done Republic Commando on Switch, and remembering how that handled team stuff. And saying, oh my God, that was so archaic. And then playing this, it's like, it's not as old as that. It's not as archaic as that. But when I was playing it for a while and thinking like, oh no, like it's kind of cool to play this just to see how far games have come in the intervening years. Because it was so revolutionary at the time, like the stuff that it was doing. And I think the one part that feels like it still completely holds up is just the writing and the story and the way it like gets you immediately involved in all the characters and immediately interested in side characters and what's happening. Like they introduce like a character, and then the Turian you're with on that mission who then dies. There's instantly buy-in and intrigue, and like it's complex right from the start and engaging in a way that like all that stuff totally holds up. Just goes to show like so much of the success of those games was that writing.
And the world building also, I mean, like the moment to moments and character and all that other stuff, yes, but I think like the world they built around that is just inherently interesting. I can't think of another franchise where I spent that much time just like listening to codex entries and all that other stuff and wanting to know you know, like when they changed the way guns work with thermal clips and stuff between games, you want to know why. Like you know, like that's the world they built, one where you care about that sort of stuff. And so it ended up being this really bittersweet thing for me of going back to it, because it was like, man, I love this. And then, like, you know, and you meet almost the entire playable cast of that game in the first like 4-ish hours or something. You know, you've got everybody but Liara, like that. And like meeting them all again, I was like, oh, this is so fucking awesome. But like it was still this bittersweet thing of just like, my time with this franchise has not been like this. And getting back into it, it also reminded me of the bad times. And it's like, oh, so much of this setup is so amazing. Oh, this is so goddamn good. And then it was like, oh, but then I think about how things went with 3 and how I felt playing that game and all that stuff. And I just go like, you know what? I need to stop now. Mm-hmm. And I even went because I was streaming it and wanted to show, like I went and played through the first like half hour, or even maybe it's even less than that, but the first chunk of Mass Effect 2. And seeing that introductory cutscene where the ship blows up, and just how all the Cerberus stuff, like the way the Cerberus armor looks, and all the, like the changes they made in the Elusive Man in his big weird room, and the lady and her ass and all that stuff, and you're just like, this game's fucking incredible, holy shit! But again, all of it kind of gets tugged back. Like I don't want to be hurt again. I don't know that I can.
The more you talk about this. It just sounds like you're looking at photographs of a holiday you took with an ex-partner, and you're like, oh, that was a really fun time. And then it's just a memory.
Right.
Creeps back.
Turns out it was good once, but when it went bad, it went real bad. And so I think that's ultimately not enough time has passed for me to want to reapproach those games.
It still hurts in here.
Yes, exactly. And that's frustrating. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We got a few more games to cover. We'll take a break. We'll cover those and get into some news. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. What's in your vitamins? Do you know? I mean, you know, it says in big letters on the front of the package, you know, like A, D. But what's going on in there? It's not like it's just that. It's like weird fillers and stuff like that. Don't you want to know what's really in your vitamins? Do you? Well, that's why there's Ritual. Ritual has clean, vegan-friendly multivitamins that have been formulated with high-quality nutrients in bioavailable forms that your body can actually use. And there's no sugars or major allergens, synthetic fillers, or artificial colorants in there. You get a fresh, minty taste and a delayed release capsule that makes taking your vitamins easy. That's the thing, right? I mean, you know, what good is a vitamin if you're taking it and you're like, blah, my stomach, I can't, this taste is bad. Minty fresh. They send some of these over. They got a mint. It's like a mint. There's a mint in there. For minty, it's like it keeps it fresh. That's what you want. Something you can just take and not have to think about, or it's gonna stick with you for like an hour afterward. Like, I gotta drink something. What's going on? That's because Ritual is the multivitamin reimagined. Key nutrients in forms that your body can actually use, and helps fill gaps in your diet. No weird extras. It's just, you know, it's vitamin D3 and that sort of stuff. High quality nutrients. 2 daily pills. Easy, simple, and a visible supply chain. And a visible supply chain on top of that. The train is coming through to tell you what's on the visible supply chain. They'll let you know where all this stuff came from, so you can track it down. Go like, okay, this is the right stuff. This is the right stuff for me. And that's, you know, whether you're a woman, a man, a teen, they got different formulations for you to help support different life stages. Get key nutrients without the BS. That stands for bull slop, I think. Ritual is offering 10% off your first 3 months. You can visit ritual.com/bomb to start your ritual today. This show is brought to you in part by the Hulu original series, MODOK. That's right, MODOK. They're making a MODOK show. That's crazy. It's It's wild. Okay, let's back up. In case you don't, MODOK is a supervillain voiced by Patton Oswalt. So that's cool. MODOK, let's just back up even further here. MODOK stands for mental organism designed only for killing. But for MODOK, the only thing harder than ruling the planet is running a family. Get ready to discover that not all villains are super. The show's got a deep cast. You got Patton Oswalt in there as MODOK, which is inspired casting. Then you got Amy Garcia, Ben Schwartz, that's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Melissa Fumero, Wendy McClendon Covey, Beck Bennett, John Daly. John Daly is Sam Richardson, and some celebrity cameos as some of your favorite Marvel heroes. Marvel's MODOK, series premiere May 21st, only on Hulu. All right, we're back, and now let's continue talking about video games. Jan, you checked out Famicom Detective Club, the long-awaited English debut.
I can finally fulfill my childhood dreams of being a teenage Japanese detective.
Oh.
Yeah, so this Famicom
Detective Pikachu?
No, that's if I was a Pokemon. Here,
I'm
a Jap.
Are you Pikachu? No?
I could be. I could transport my soul into a Pikachu.
Hey,
and then yes,
you Pikachu? That's it. That's all. That's the whole joke. That's all I got.
Hey.
So yeah, Famicom Detective Club. Like Jeff, you said, this is like a long-awaited port, and I think
awaited. It's an old ass game that they've decided to put out on the Switch and do in English. I don't know that anyone was necessarily going like, yeah, but like it's kind of cool that they brought this over.
And I think this is like one of Nintendo's only forays into the visual novel genre. I think I want to say that. And they also re-released the Missing Air on the GBA, but only in Japan. And they've done a substantial amount of work to this. It's a visual novel game. It is not as interactive as, say, a Phoenix Wright game where you are, in a courtroom and like you have to choose which proper evidence to bring up at what moment. They've done work in terms of there's a lot of voice acting, but it's all in Japanese. And instead of like the little portraits of whatever scenes, you actually get like a full tableau, and you'll have really nicely animated portraits of the different characters you're interacting with. I think the thing that is still stuck in the past is that there's a couple quality of life stuff problems that I wish they had implemented since they've done all this other work. And again, I'm not a huge person into the visual novel genre. I liked 13 Sentinels way too much, and Phoenix Wright a bunch. But here, there's stuff like I have fallen into the trap of I'll get into a scenario and I'll have the person I'm questioning, and then you're as a detective, you're making your own mental notes of like, okay, I think this is the important thing. You're drawing your own conclusion and your own connections, but this game isn't really doing that. You kind of have to like exhaust the different dialogue options to get the next dialogue prompt or the prompt to look for something in the environment or travel to a different location. It's a little bit of a bummer because like I'm liking where the story is going. I just wish I could be doing more to interact with it other than just like asking a butler, okay, well, what about this person? No. Okay, this person? No. What about that thing? No. Okay. I'll ask you about this person again, and then that'll unlock a different dialogue prompt.
Is the dialogue good? Because that's a problem that a lot of like early adventure games also had, but at least the dialogue was funny, so you kind of didn't care.
It's not. I didn't. No, it's not. It's not super funny, but like the story is intriguing enough that I feel like I've invested. Like I think the first game, there's two of them. The first one I'm playing through is Famicom Detective Club: The Missing Air, and that's supposed to be 11 or so chapters, I think.
The Missing Air or the Lost Air?
The Lost Air, Missing Air. An air is missing somewhere.
HEIR.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that is about 11 or so chapters, and I'm on 6.
Missing Air.
And I feel like, all right, well, I've already invested this much time in trying to solve this crime. I might as well
gotta find this
solve it all the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And And other quality of life stuff is like you're scanning around the environment, and because it's with a cursor on an analog stick, you just kind of wish you could just adjust that speed to like scan through everything. Or with the dialogue stuff, I wish they would kind of gray out dialogue options that have already been exhausted or do not matter to the thing, because so many times I'll ask like the butler about something that I know for a fact they would have no idea about, but because I'm trying to unlock the next prompt to go to the next place or see the next person, I'm like hitting every single option like 2-3 times, which is a bit of a bummer, and I don't think that part is aged well. Like for instance, a part I was stuck at last night is I had to go meet up with someone, and I thought I had exhausted, not the butler, this dude that gave me his shirt.
No, makes sense.
He told me like, hey, go over there to that place, and I went to that place. No one is there. I click on every single thing there, and the only option to do is like go back to that guy, and then he says, hey, I don't got anything else new to add, but what about you go back to that place? And I go back to the place, and there's nothing there.
What is this?
So then I go back to the guy, and then I had hit like a dialogue option the second time that I didn't think I would need to hit. And he was like, hey, you should go back to that place. But what about this thing, huh?
Oh, I hate all of this.
Yeah. So I go back to the place, and it's all a visual novel, so thankfully there's not a lot of loading times. You're not walking through to places. It's just loading screens. But I wanted to like cause virtual murder in this game, and become the criminal myself because I couldn't take it. And the weird thing that this game does is that it will highlight something in yellow when something is for sure going to advance the plot forward. But it only does that in certain parts of the game. It's not like a thing like, okay, well, if you want to move on, this is the thing to hit, unless you want to like learn more story bits. But I mean, I'm having an okay time. I wish there was like a little bit more activity, a little bit more mystery solving. You can fast forward through some of the dialogue options if you click on L. It's on the Switch. The weird part for me though is that each of these releases is $34.99.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, you can buy both as a package and save $10 apparently, but for something where it's a lot of reading and not a lot of interaction, it feels a little steep. But they have added like almost everything is voice acted other than the main character.
Cool.
So there's that, but again, it is all in Japanese. So I don't know if you want to work on your Japanese while you're solving a crime.
So they're speaking Japanese, but the text is in English.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
There's been work done to that. There's some flashy, neat stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm really tempted to just let this crime scene just go unsolved and
I mean, it's been like
detective on the edge, ready to commit a crime himself.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, because like
it's
if you wanted
case,
to
right?
pick up like one of these, $35.99 is kind of like
big ask.
It feels a little steep.
Is it a two-part? Is it two-parter though? Like, does the story end after the first one? Well, I guess you don't know, but
I think so. The Missing Heir is like an isolated story, but then the second game, and I forget which one that is called, is like a prequel to this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're both self-contained. If you wanted to just dip into one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's okay. The butler, great mustache.
Ugh.
All right. Well,
Best
I'm
video game butler?
bored. Yeah.
You saying?
Oh, no.
God, is he better? Is he better than the Tomb Raider butler?
I mean,
That sucks.
that butler's not
hate that guy.
exactly pivotal in any meaningful way, right? Like,
Yeah, this butler, like he's so far where I'm at in the story.
Good. That was pretty good.
He's a linchpin. Like, he hires you,
Yeah.
so you would have no job If it was,
he did it.
Right.
Definitely. That's...
Also, if you're missing out on your amnesiac teen stories, here you go. You know,
cool.
We haven't had one of those.
That's my brand.
Yeah. Ever since Full House, we haven't had an amnesiac teen.
Yes.
Okay. I thought you were just talking about anime, but now I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Full House is anime.
The Full House anime is a
culture.
Yeah.
Full House anime, we're onto something there, fellers.
Yeah, that's where the real money is made. Or is it beneath the ice? Subnautica Below Zero. This came out of early access, right? Is that the story? That's the story.
Yeah,
here, right.
It's been much like the first Subnautica was in early access for a while before its 1.0. I guess Below Zero, the sequel to Subnautica, came out of early access a couple of days ago. I hadn't played it in early access, but I'd seen a bunch of trailers. Obviously, I mean, Subnautica is like one of the post Minecraft survival craft games that was like incredibly successful. Massive community around it, people playing it for years. And Below Zero is like an interesting type of sequel because I actually think this appeals maybe even more to people who haven't played Subnautica because it's kind of smaller and denser. Like the area that you're in isn't as there's some late game stuff in the original Subnautica which kind of gives a reason why it was quite so big, but this is like first of all, it kind of plays very similar to the start of Subnautica. Like that game was really good at onboarding people, like teaching them this is what you do. You're basically the sort of hook of this game is that it's a survival craft game where you're predominantly under the water. You have a small little sort of pod that exists under the water. Jan's not gonna like it. It's basically the underwater like Sonic level with oxygen.
No, that's even worse.
Yeah,
is there a mob
doesn't
to play the music? Can we get a mob that
be.
plays the drowning music?
Why would you bring that up? The most suffocating possible moment of my childhood.
Because I like watching that fucking hedgehog die.
Just watching his eyes get all big right before one of those is out of reach. Oh,
that was good. There are straight up like oxygen plants in this world. So sometimes you are in an underground
oxygen
cave.
Plants.
And you are, I know, very convenient. And you are like running to get one of these plants because you can't find your way up. But it's cool. It has voice acting now, which the original, I'm pretty sure, didn't have. The story hook in this is actually really cool. I like it. You're kind of going back to, it's the original planet, but it's a different part of it. Probably a polar ice cap because it's, there's like weird little penguin things and there's an ice sheets. You're looking for your sister who died and the corporation says that she died because of her own negligence. And you're like, nah, there's something else going on here. But it's cool. It looks gorgeous. The sound design in these games has always been amazing. It's so good in this. You just kind of know when there's big underwater beasts around you and stuff, and even what the weather is like on the surface just from listening. It's really clever at that. And I think the fact that it's smaller and a bit denser I think it might be a good thing for people who haven't played the original because for me at least, there was less of the I'm not really quite sure where I should be at this moment. It's quite obvious where once you get out a certain part away from your original pod, the what do you call it, the table of the water or whatever goes down deeper, and you're like, well, obviously I need to have better oxygen supply to be doing any of that stuff, or this big beast, and you're like, I should probably have more than a knife. But it's cool. I think it's super polished and a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying the hell out of it.
Nice. You also checked out, I believe, Cannon Brawl on the Switch.
Yeah, this came out in 2014. It was one of my favorite games that year, and I'm not sure if it sold well, but people did not really know about it, and I was raving about it, and they just did a Switch port like I think 2 weeks ago or something. So I played a bunch of it, and it's still awesome. It's basically I'm going to say a combination of words, which is probably going to turn people away, but it's not that. It's kind of like
people do this, by the way. Though, so give me your worst.
I'm probably the reason this game maybe wasn't as successful as it should have been, but it's kind of like a real-time strategy, like tower defense game, but it's basically like Worms. It's like a 2D, map where there is one base on one side, one base on the other side, and you are building rockets and radar dishes that are shields, and you are basically shooting across at each other and trying to encroach on the map while the other person's encroaching on the map. It has a single player campaign that you can go through, which is a lot of fun. It has multiplayer support, and multiplayer is really good. And yeah, I think it's like one of the tightest designed little fun games when I played on PC, and it suits the Switch really well actually, because it's kind of, the screen is nice and wide that way, and it's got that sort of that vibe of, I don't know, like a game like Worms feels like it is at home on a machine like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that kind
Did you
of
ever
like
play
artillery
that?
style. I feel like there are a lot of this style of or like different takes on the like it looks like Worms, but like that genre I feel like has been happening in fits and starts for the last 5 years, and so like I'm looking at it and going like, this looks like something I might have looked at some point, but it could have been a different one. So it's real time. It's not like a turn-based thing then.
Yeah, so you actually control an airship, and that's what builds things. So you need to there's timers on stuff, and you're collecting gold. That's sort of like the StarCraft elements or whatever, the real-time strategy elements, that you're making mines, which is accruing gold, which is what the sort of allows you to build new stuff. And then every time you shoot like a rocket, there's a timer, a cooldown on that. You can upgrade those rockets. There's like loads of different strategies. Like by the time you've played like maybe an hour of the campaign, you have unlocked like a suite of different things, and then almost like card battler style, you can only choose 5 to go into any one battle. So then when they start changing the terrain and stuff, and changing the enemies, and also the airship you have, there's different characters that basically have an ult that can do something different too. There's like a lot of strategic depth to it. It was one of those games where like the more you play it, the more complex it gets, and it's all really satisfying. If people should check it out. I think it's first time around. I think it didn't sell as well maybe as I would have thought it would have. To me, it's one of these sort of games that whenever I get a chance to bring it up, I do, because I think it's anyone I've ever played it with has been like, oh, this is really cool. So it's worth a look anyway.
Awesome. And as we kind of transition into news here, Mandalorian Pinball, Jeff Bakalar. This got announced like I think it was while we were doing the show last week that this started coming up. You've had a chance to eyeball it, but you have not seen the actual table in person because it's not out yet, right?
It's not out yet, and it's not in my house yet.
Okay.
But I imagine one day it will be for a little bit of time. That'll be a fun little thing we get to play. But check it out. I don't know if we have the ability to show it off, but for audio listeners, that won't do shit anyway.
Can I hit the baby Yoda?
I think the baby Yoda, which I just learned as someone who does not watch this program, they don't call it Baby Yoda. I assumed everyone was calling this thing Baby Yoda. His name is like Yogurt or something. What is his
Grogu,
name?
man. Grogu.
Oh,
Gogurt.
okay.
No, it's Gogurt.
Gogurt. I'm thinking Spaceballs maybe. That's why Yogurt got, which is a fair sort of thing to assume. Yeah,
it's insensitive.
I'm always amazed. The big thing. So for people who don't know, I'm very much into pinball. There's a huge is maybe an inaccurate word, but there is a community of pinball enthusiasts out there that really go over these new games with a microscope. And the biggest thing that everyone's always concerned about is the use of the real estate on the playfield, being the the area where the action is. And a lot of new games coming out are making incredible, resourceful use of all that real estate. And it seems like this game is going to do kind of something similar. So every game has a gimmick, right? For like what just came out, like Ninja Turtles last year, it was the van. They had like the turtle van in there, and all the balls got locked in the van. This fucking machine had like 9 balls in it, which is way more than any pinball machine needs to have in it. And if you did
that
like
Apollo 13 multi-ball, when you would get that 13-ball multi-ball in Apollo 13, it was cool as shit.
It's cool, but it's also like,
balls.
I mean, it scrambles your brain in a way that's just not great. They actually, the turtle multi-ball thing, they had to like pipe it down a little bit because people were just like, what am I doing right now? I can't keep up with this.
So patched it.
Yeah, they patched it. They did. So there's new code comes out for pinball games now, and there's a USB port in the back glass, and you just load up a new firmware, and that can add new modes and sounds and assets. Because now they're all LCD screens.
Then? Like
there are homebrew ones too.
Wow.
Yeah. So like for example, I have a Jurassic Park game that is based on the film, but they got like a slice of the license. So they got like Wayne Knight playing Nedry, and that's it.
Yeah.
They've got the theme song,
and they really lean on that. Like he's talking a lot, right? Like you hear a lot
the whole
of that
time.
dude.
He's like you know, a bunch of that. Every other character is nowhere to be heard from. They play the score, which is great because it's very epic and recognizable and really ties the whole thing together. But that's all they got, and they got like the logo. And other than that, they emulate scenes in the game, right? So like you play a part where they show you like that security system UI that they invented for the thing, and like it says like it's a Unix system, you know this, like that kind of stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
Every game's got a gimmick, right? A couple of gimmicks. And The Mandalorian has this upper sort of play field where it's on its own kind of platform. So the ball enters this play field that then tilts and has its own flippers in there. And it's like the Boba Fett helmet.
Excuse me, it's the Din Djarin helmet.
Okay, thank you. I needed a nerd to correct me and like get the Star Wars stuff
okay,
straight.
pinball guy.
Did I say,
yeah.
I didn't say nerd. I meant
talk about cool shit over here.
Yeah, come on, get it together. Shit. So yeah, I mean, I think the game looks pretty interesting. There's, they have all the toys in there that you would want. See the thing, and that's the thing, right? The theme is not always the thing you care about. Like for me, I want the playability of the thing. Some of the best games ever created in pinball are shitty themes. They're just bad themes, or they're like original, IP stuff. They're not any kind of theme. It's just what the game maker sort of invented for the thing. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, on paper, when it's tough to always see like how does it play, what's the flow of it. A lot of the things people care about are like combos and the sort of like, are you able to get into a flow with the game? There's a lot of games out there that look amazing, and you see the videos of it and you're like, oh, this is going to play so great. Then when you finally get in your hands, you're like, this is clunky, it doesn't work. Blah. So you never really know till you play it, but I'm excited. And I think they're starting to make them right now. So they do 4 a year, if you can believe. Stern makes 4 games a year. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy when I think about like, so I don't know, like the pinball era I care about. It seems like there were just way more machines coming out overall.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And because I care about High Speed and High Speed 2 and F-14 Tomcat, and
sure,
those aren't all the same year, but I like Bonsai Run. You want to talk about gimmicky tables?
Oh,
playing pinball in the back glass of the table. Yeah, the bike one, and you're kind of shooting it in the back glass. I always thought that was cool.
Yeah. They're still out there. That in my local pinball museum, there's one of those there.
Yeah, that's a fun weird table.
The weirder the gimmick, the better, is what I say. And then if it's fun, that's an afterthought. I want it strange.
Sure, yeah.
And
what's the weirdest gimmick? What's like the weirdest table that like?
I always thought
the Apollo game is weird just because of how many balls are in there.
Yeah, that's a lot of balls.
Just a lot of balls.
It's just a lot of balls.
There was only 6 in Apollo 13.
Exactly. I thought that I don't give a shit about the Family Guy, but in the Family Guy pinball table, they put a tiny pinball table inside of the pinball table that you could play pinball on.
That's cool. I like that.
It's like everything's micro, like the flippers and the ball are like a micro flipper ball. It's great. Yeah,
it's a crazy weird thing. Yeah. All right. Why don't we get into news here?
I did it.
Let's do it.
I did the pinball.
You desecrated another podcast. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That Mandalorian.
We're going to spend an hour talking about Black Knight 2000 versus original Black Knight next week. Come back.
All right. Let's do it.
There's a baby yogurt in that Mandalorian, like a full-on baby yogurt in that Mando pinball machine.
Full-sized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scale.
break in and steal it.
You can. Bill Burr's on the side of the machine.
Well, hey,
gosh.
if Bill Burr is there, then you know it's on. So, gosh, now let's segue. There has been a humanitarian crisis happening in Gaza. This has been, well, I was going to say this has been going on for about a week now, but really, this is a situation that's been going on for a very, very long time, and it's unfolding in a way I think, you can point to a lot of different reasons: social media, the existence of the camera phone. There's just a lot more visibility into moments like this these days, and so some of the scenes coming out of that region have been really horrifying, and so this intersects with video games in a way that IGN I think is kind of the Game Informer as well, posted some pretty direct calls to action around this stuff in terms of like, hey, here's some places where you can donate to help the people of Palestine, which I don't know that I need to get into it, but also I don't know that I have the time or even the background to fully get into why that has, in this country, especially, can be seen as a very controversial statement, and maybe it shouldn't be anymore. Anyway, IGN ran that. It got pulled not long after that, and that has kind of set off a lot of events in motion here, where then I believe it was yesterday that the employees of IGN went and signed up for a Medium account and posted an open letter to the leadership at IGN and Ziff Davis and J2 Global, who's the parent company that owns the whole thing, saying like, more or less like, hey, the journalistic parts of this where management came in and pulled a story and then at like 2 a.m. posted a thing to Twitter implying that like the staff is all on board with this sort of stuff. And this is the staff, the editorial staff being like, no, we're super not, has been, well, obviously, the serious part of this is the serious part of this is what's happening there, and like Israel blowing up buildings, well, civilians and stuff like that. But to keep it with the part that intersects with video games, because we could be here all damn day talking about just how fucked up that is. This has been back and forth where you've got the staff of IGN kind of trying to maintain some editorial independence, and this is one of those line crossing moments that you think about, and in the journalism field, and gosh, there's been some updates here where Stephen Totillo of Axios said this morning, IGN sources tell me site general manager Per Schneider acknowledged the open letter during an editorial meeting today, said leadership is working on a path forward. You guys are being heard. No specifics. Those sources express relief that retaliation doesn't seem to be coming. So in a lot of ways, this was that editorial team putting it all out there in a way that could have and still could, we don't really know, result in a lot of them losing their job. There's an IGN division in Israel that I believe is probably a licensing deal. It's not necessarily like an owned and operated thing, but they had something very different to say about the events that then also got pulled down. And there's been a lot of back and forth. Game Informer also ran something that's been pulled. Timur over at GameSpot has had a lot to say about this. That is still available. And he's been streaming for charity. Kind of Funny's been out there raising money for a stream that they're about to do on Friday.
Tomorrow
a lot of different charities
broke through his $10,000 that he was hoping to get for the week, and also like all credit to Tam as well, because he was one of the first. He shouldn't have to be, but he was one of the first people to really try and get the games industry in particular to talk about this, because like you said, we could talk about it all day. It's and the conversation around in Europe is so different, you know what I mean, especially in Ireland, where there's such a healthy solidarity with Palestine, and I have family who served in the Lebanon and West Bank, and it's like a known thing. And I think it was really something else for him to do this. And also IGN did what I think is really interesting when it comes to the fact that management had to come down on IGN is that IGN's article was what you need to really be reading the tea leaves in a specific way to think of that as inflammatory. Like,
it was not some radical thing. It was like,
no.
Hey, there are people, just regular ass people being caught out here and killed. It was not some big political statement, right? In the grand scheme, right? Not what it could have been, in terms of that. You're right. It was very focused on the humanitarian crisis aspect of this, and you're right. The conversation in this country, I think, is very. We were talking about a little bit before the show, but it ties very much into this is the country that was fingerprinting children and dare meetings and all this other stuff. That you were raised in the Reagan era, at least I was. It was just like, this is Yasser Arafat. He's a bad guy. This is this person, and I'm not going to sit here and say like everyone's hands are clean or anything like that. It's not about that, but like the idea of Palestine existing as a place and not just a thing that some people talked about was something that was almost unheard of in a lot of ways around here, and it's been interesting to see that conversation change, and it feels like that conversation is changing dramatically right now because of what's happening there right now. And
I also wonder if this isn't the first time you guys have talked about an issue like this over the past year on the Bombcast, right? There's been a lot, just the general wave of activism that seems to exist in America specifically about lots of issues that when this happens, because it was only 7 or 8 years ago was the last time that we had this sort of escalation of conflict. Then you go back into 2003, 2004, or that whole entire period. But the difference is now, I wonder, is that people are, so, I don't know, are they educating themselves, or they're open to the idea of, or maybe just the world is so crazy right now that everything we assume perhaps we now look at a second time before pushing it off to the side. But I don't know why. I'm not American, so I can't tell, but it feels like we're sort of in an era now.
I can't really tell either. I think it is one of those things that maybe slowly gets chipped away at, because it's, for me, it's like my upbringing and what news looked like while I was a kid, and where the battle lines were drawn, who were the good guys and who were the bad guys, and all that other stuff when you're a kid. And then the world is not as big as it used to be. Social media, the internet has connected so many people. And so I think for me, I know a lot more people from a lot of different places now that, even 15 years ago, I would not have known as many people from as many different walks of life. That changes all the time. You encounter different people with those perspectives that are being raised in different places and have a very different story to tell than what was on the network news every night when that stuff was going on. I mean, talk about Lebanon, there were Saturday Night Live sketches doing parody songs about Lebanon when that was happening. It was like a fake tourism song they wrote that is still stuck with me to this day about when I think about Lebanon, I think about come to Lebanon, like the dumb joke they made, and it's such a different. Things are different and things are not different, I guess. It's like a lot of things are very different, and I think we're at a point now where you can look at people and not countries, and you can look at people with phones in their pockets filming what's going on around them, and it's a lot easier to relate to that sort of stuff in a way that in the 80s and even past that, you could just look at it and go that's over there stuff. I don't even know what's going on over there. It
was very faceless.
Yeah. And seeing the humanity of it all, I think, is probably one of the largest changes we're seeing in a lot of things. When you talk about activism and how things are different now around that stuff, I think that is probably one of the bigger parts of it, is someone's got a camera and now you get to see what that shit really looks like. in a way that is not just like, here's a guy reading it to you and you go like, well, that sounds terrible. Who won the Giants game, or whatever. And
it's which especially doesn't help perhaps if the, not to get anti-media or weird, but like every media has a voice, right? Every outlet has a voice, and I would argue, especially like even it is different here. Like when I stick on NPR in the morning, even the way they report on it sounds like alien to the way this stuff would have been reported growing up, especially in Ireland, where we come from a completely different aspect when it comes to colonialization and like the type of like spin that gets put on people to make them bad or good or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't help perhaps as well when you're living in a country where the media maybe was speaking about it in less complex terms or more complex terms or whatever the way it was.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
And so and it's obviously there's a lot more ins and outs on this, and obviously still more to come. But Timur's been out there streaming. Kind of Funny is going to be streaming. You can head over to pcrf.net for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund if you want some more details about that as well. There's some game news as well. AT&T. This has been kicking around for a while, where it looked like they were going to sell it, and they were like, no, it's not for sale, and things have changed. But AT&T is still going to spin off Warner Media and merge it with Discovery, which I believe is an AT&T property. So this sounds like some corporate shuffling, and they are looking to, there's literally a quote, they're looking to create shareholder value.
What is Discovery? Is that just like
Discovery Discovery Networks is
Scripps.
or is
Right?
that
Is it Scripps?
is that the Discovery Channel?
Yes, the Discovery Channel and Discovery Plus, which I think is their streaming service, maybe.
So Ludacris is part of this then.
Yes, Ludacris's cooking show, I believe, is part of this. So maybe Luda.
He's all tangled up.
Perhaps I don't know where the corporate lines are drawn here. The gaming part of this is that obviously Warner controls WB Games, which is that's the makers of Mortal Kombat, and also the owners of a great deal of like classic arcade IP through Midway, whether that's like Paperboy or Joust or Robotron and like all that other stuff. And the details are not firm at this time. This transfer, this spin-off, will include some, but not all, of the video game assets, and there hasn't really been any immediate word on which parts are going where, which makes me wonder, like, is the mobile stuff going to stay on one side, and then the kind of core gaming part going to end up on another? That's like, when I think about it logically, what you might do, that's maybe what you would do, or maybe you're splitting it out. So like, hey, the Lego part of the business is going to go this way, and the places doing the T&M rated games are going to go over here.
Right, yeah. Traveler's Tales is them.
Yeah,
they own.
TT Games. They bought and renamed that, I think, at some point even.
Okay.
So the Warner portfolio is deeper than you might think, because they bought Midway and bought all that stuff, and so there's even just a lot of assets that they're not touching, that are important to the history of video games, that now I very much want to know where that stuff's going to end up, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, it looks like maybe someone in chat here. Oh no, that's not really. Never mind. That's not quite.
Where does Guy Fieri land in this transaction?
He ends up in the next Mortal Kombat. He's like eating hot peppers and breathing out fire. He's going to play Boraicho in the next movie. Don't worry.
I see him every day. He did one of those things at like a local restaurant, and they just have a fucking picture of him with all the staff out the front of the building. I see it.
He did every restaurant.
It looks like he's running out of them.
One.
Yeah. So yeah, this still seems like it's very much in progress in that I don't think they've quite said what's happening, but I think DC Comics moved along with this stuff as well. So it'll probably have some implications in that world. And the thing that Warner seemed to want to do when they were talking about selling it off was like, hey, we want to retain the rights to this IP film or for whatever, and then maybe the games go off to a different buyer or something like that. Like they kind of wanted to have it both ways, especially as at the time they had, they still will have like Mortal Kombat films in motion. Right. And so there's that aspect of it. We'll see where it goes. Good luck to everyone on all sides of that. I know some of these transfers of ownership can get a little messy. And hopefully this just means someone will find a box somewhere and go like, oh, this is full of builds of This Is Vegas and the Midway's unreleased games. This Is Vegas and Fear and Respect, the Snoop Dogg game, and we're gonna dump them and put them out online.
Who's gonna end up with the legal rights to the Nemesis system? Isn't it?
Right.
They own that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is. That's it's that, and where does NetherRealm end up? That's the stuff,
right?
Truly want to know more about. And there, I wonder, like, if this were normal, if the pandemic hadn't happened and we were on the same schedules and all the other stuff, I feel like NetherRealm would have announced their next game by now.
Sure.
And
I bet they're also avoiding the movie. I bet that was such a big Mortal Kombat thing that they probably gave it a couple of months.
Yeah, but like at the same time, like their next game would be an Injustice. Like they're on like that kind of cycle
that
of
alternating.
You're right.
Yeah. There was some rumor going around. I don't even know if I want to give it voice here, but like people were trying to say like they're doing DC versus Marvel, and which is something that I know Ed Boon has spoken about wanting to do for a while, but that'd be cool.
I'm just more now thinking about all these internal brands all tug of warring over the Nemesis system internally, sort of
right?
Yeah, where that
it's like, no, we were going to use it in a movie. You can't have it for the games division.
Iron Chef could implement the Nemesis
there
system.
You go.
Okay.
You go.
Oh my gosh,
man.
Oh, okay. Iron Chef game.
We thought about giving it to
Nemesis
Shark
system.
Week.
Yeah. Sharks are always the nemesis. They don't need a system for that. It's like, who is my nemesis? It's sharks.
I'm gonna take down Chef Morimoto finally.
With what ingredients? What are we using here to take him down?
Friendship.
Okay, that would do it. Again? All right. GTA, speaking of again, GTA 5 not wanting to be left out of the Skyrim-esque re-release party. They are going to be putting out PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S versions of GTA 5 on November 11th. They announced that later. 8 years later, they are still making too much money off of GTA 5 to do anything else. Even Red Dead Online did not do it. Did not bring in the money that GTA Online is. So they are still pumping a lot of resources and efforts into updating that.
Dude, I get an email every like 2 weeks about a new like mission thing, or like they are constantly at. It's not even as if like there's just like legacy players. Like no, they added in this whole island with casinos in it 2 months ago or something. It was huge. Like it's so crazy. GTA Online is now like probably twice as big as regular ass GTA 5. It's
totally
nuts.
Yeah.
There's like they're gonna Twitch streams of people role playing.
Oh yeah, even Gary Witta's doing it.
Yeah. His stuff's been really fun with that. I don't know if he's doing any more of it. I haven't seen any in a bit, but like, it's good shit. So this is part of a longer release from Rockstar talking about updates coming to Red Dead Online and GTA Online. And there's one bit in here that I thought was worth calling out. Here's the quote. It says, "Plus, in honor of the upcoming 20th anniversary of the genre-defining Grand Theft Auto 3."
Wow.
20 fucking years.
I was hoping you
we'll
said
have even
Grand
more
Theft
fun
Auto.
surprises to share, including some specifically for GTA Online. So it looks like they're going to try to do some things around GTA 3 for its 20th anniversary, whether that's just like, here's a Claude Speed skin for GTA Online.
I was wondering if you'd be able to remember his name. Oh my god.
It's not even in the game. It's not even his real name, is it? I don't. It's like, it's so fucking. It was like the name of the character in the short film they made to promote the game.
Right.
And then I don't know if they ever fully closed the loop on his name being Claude, which is
what
such
else
a
is in
shitty
3?
name.
What else is in 3 that wasn't in other ones? That wasn't in 4, or wasn't like I can't even. What's specific to 3 except for Liberty City? I'm like struggling. Like the Dodo, was that 3? That was 3, wasn't it? That plane that would like barely fly.
Yeah, that's 3. Maybe they do some of the radio stations. Could they bring back some of the GTA 3 music and do that? Could they
that motion blur? Bring back that motion blur.
Every time you turn around, all the cars are the same 3 cars again.
Just every brake light just bleeds across horizontally.
It's so good though.
Yeah, that's also, it's been damn near 20 years since the release of Grand Theft Auto 3. Like, you think about what has happened in video games since then. I mean, this is going to be, it's a big anniversary. We're hitting on those big anniversary years. You know, Xbox is out there. Like, every person working at Microsoft changed all their social media shit to be the 20-year logo and all this stuff. They're very... I like the logo. I think that's good.
How wild is it that they're... I know they obviously Vice City and San Andreas, but it is actually quite funny that they are only on 5 and it's been 20 years.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Not a great average, but...
Yeah, but then they did, like Liberty City Stories and Chinatown Wars.
Chinatown
and
Wars,
the handheld stuff was really good too.
The expansion packs for 4 were pretty big. Gay Tony was great.
Yeah.
Lost and Damned.
Yeah,
not
less
to mention
great,
Red Dead, which were...
Yeah, right. Yeah, do you think Rockstar is going to enter into this weird Half-Life-esque era where they are never going to make a numbered sequel to 5 because of how well online is doing? Or also there's been some talent turnover and like the other aspect of it where
you're going. I think there's going to be a whole new generation of folks who've gotten a hold of the wheel there, and everyone's shifted up a little bit, and I bet that they'll be able to, maybe it's tricky because rising to the occasions is difficult, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think if anything, online hopefully gives them more runway to get to that wherever that thing needs to be, and hopefully in a way that doesn't require them to work 80 hours a week or whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because these games are impossibly hard to make. They're so big, right? And they're made by multiple studios. Rockstar's got studios all over the world, and they're getting harder. The next one's got to be in 4K. Can you imagine?
Right. Yeah.
What?
Or it's got to be an 8K, man. Come on. No, they'll remaster it for 8K later. But I think the other part of this is GTA Online kind of neuters my interest in, because I worry. GTA Online is giving them a boatload of cash. They can kind of write their own ticket, and some of them wrote their own ticket out of there. They're like, I've been doing this a while. Let's go do something else. But you're right. You've got the new maybe hungry people that are okay, now we get to make our GTA. Or Sam Houser's still there, so maybe it'll always be his GTA. Who knows? But are they now beholden to, well, if it's not making GTA Online levels of money, why did we do it? Is GTA 6
I don't know. Those games
now
make so much money anyway, right?
But not like GTA Online does. And you see it with Red Dead. You see them squirming just a little bit with the updates around it in terms of we're gonna put the online out separately. We're gonna do this, and now they're doing it for GTA Online as well. And
I also think their success with GTA Online has made them also realize we can do all this stuff, but what we really could do next time, that kind of thing where
I think the online stuff fit better with GTA than it ever would have done with Red Dead, right? Because you just have access to so much more tech and culture.
It's a lot easier to say, fuck it, we put jetpacks in here.
Totally.
With that than it would be with Red Dead. Though I would love to see them go off the rails with Red Dead.
But also the online stuff was them figuring it out as it went. So you basically now have a team that's worked on this hyper successful online game and made it successful over the course of 6 or 7 years. I bet the people on that team want nothing more than to have a clean slate to be able to stick it in the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah,
and
I
also,
think what I want
yeah.
out of GTA though is story. What I want a single player campaign. I want I want that experience again. I think, or I guess more correctly, I didn't much care for GTA Online. So like, if they're going to put way more resources into that next time out because that's where the money is being made, like that to me is just a little bit less interesting. And so I worry.
I bet it's like 2 dev cycles, right? Because you're not going to have writers working on online. You're not going to. It's like you need all the like engineering stuff to be happening at one level at the start. Like I don't buy into the idea that they won't do another big single player GTA game because of online. Or that they'll under resource it or something. Because I feel like in the past couple of years, that whole idea of the single player game not making money has been completely blown out of the water when we looked at what games sold in 2020 and 2019.
Right.
But I wonder what it means for GTA, and do we just go back to New York, or Liberty City? Do they do something wild out of left field?
I feel like Europe feels like a thing.
But do you worry that GTA has become, because they've done that, they did the London expansion for GTA 1. I mean, it's a different era, but I think I would worry that like that series over the years has become such a specific parody and satire of American culture, and that I think the American audience probably wants that in a way that like London wouldn't quite scratch the same itch.
I think those games also just like American cities lend themselves to so much of this. Like there's no highways in European cities. How the fuck do you make that game? You're just stuck in traffic the whole time. Like I know it's like a funny, stupid thing to say, but like genuinely, like getting around those levels fast is like really important. Like people complain about, I have to drive from A to B and all this sort of stuff. Like go to London. The closest runway is the ring road. Like
and Watch Dogs kind of suffers like the open world driving aspect of Watch Dogs Legion.
Yeah,
it's neat because it's different, but at the same time, it's kind of a pain in the ass. I hope that there's a team of people who are psyched to solve that problem, because that's one of those things I look at as like, what do you do with GTA, especially after what the last handful of years in America have looked like, right? Just from a writing perspective, how do you write satire of modern America? It can't get any fucking crazier than what the fuck's been happening here. So it's so that's a hard problem, and then the tech end of it, and then the storytelling aspect of it, where like you've told all these crime stories. Are you out of crime movies to watch? And you go like, you guys watch Boys in the Hood? It's good, right? What if? Okay, hear me out. They've done a lot of that stuff, so it's
but as always. America. Somewhere, right? Like up here, or like New Orleans, like down south. How neat would it be if they did somewhere in the Midwest, like, and told that story? Like, just think about like the types of Americana that are never represented in games. That like sometimes indie movies kind of poke around.
It's like a GTA Fargo kind of thing.
Yeah, GTA Kansas,
GTA Ozarks.
You know.
Yeah.
Chicago would work. Well, I guess that's not.
I on some level cannot wait to see whatever Rockstar does from here.
Definitely,
because it's one of those situations where I just have no idea. Sometimes it's easy to call, but sometimes it's just like,
it felt that way with 5 as well. Where you're like, what do you do? Go back to San Andreas, and then they kind of
it's like, okay,
3 protagonists.
Can't even remember that far back.
Let's see here. What else? Xbox is introducing a console purchase pilot program where they're going to let people try to buy an Xbox Series X or S on an Xbox One. So, stock's been really hard to come by. So this basically what this is if you are an Xbox insider, you download the Insider Hub, you can kind of opt in and say, yes, I would like an opportunity to purchase a new Xbox. And they will use some kind of lottery system or whatever. They got limited space for it, that they are going to pick people out. And for tech that's being scooped up by scalpers and bots and stuff like that, this seems like a good way to get your existing player base who may be feeling left out these days by not being able to upgrade. A better way for them to upgrade, right?
I mean, it's just now a race to scoop up Xbox Ones. and now be a part. Like
Oh,
that's, I mean, it's the path of least resistance. I am all for innovation in removing the flipping culture that we have all devolved into. But that's just where my head goes.
They should do like an Xbox quiz, or like on the Insider app, you have to do like certain activities. The best version of this that I ever saw was I was getting my wife Taylor Swift tickets. So I had to sign up to a Taylor Swift like website. And then I had to I could get further in the line the more I like interacted with her stuff. So I watched all the music videos and I bought a t-shirt from the store just to like get anywhere close to getting if you had some scalper who like downloads the app and then what's the name of the protagonist in Perfect Dark, or like they have to like do some work. Maybe that would that'd be a fun way to figure that problem out.
I think you could just tie that stuff to achievements and quest points and stuff like that. Like,
of course you want that.
Yeah, right. Well, I already got one. I'm fine. But you can have that situation where it's like if you're really building this to try to reward your best customers who have been left out in the cold, that's how you figure that out, right? It's just like who engages with this platform the most.
Get 1,000 achievements in Halo.
Yeah. It's finally how they get people. It's finally a way that people cash in their achievement points. They finally figure this is what we've been doing all along.
Right.
I wonder actually
this moment.
Maybe they are doing that on the back end, because if we don't know what the lottery system is, maybe they're looking at those insider accounts and seeing what the activity is, because you can tell the difference.
Yeah. If you want to get really dark with that, if you want to get a little bit dark with that, you probably go outside of achievements and you go like, who is interacting with other players on the platform the most? Who is an influencer in this ecosystem? Or who is the most influential among their friends? Like, what is your Twitter account? How many followers do you? Like, there's a lot.
How many games did you buy? Even like you got the cash.
You could go to really messed up places in that if you wanted to. I'm not saying they are, but
they easily could. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, and Sony did. Yeah, a snake in chat points out that. Sony did a lottery system as well at one point, but didn't really get into it. It wasn't necessarily something that happened on the console, but
what was that? Remember that? Whatever came of that? I remember it was like sign up with your PSN for a chance to possibly purchase a PS5.
I think those people got contacted and they did not keep the program going. So and Microsoft describes this as a pilot program, so it doesn't seem like something that they're fully in on just yet, but.
Yeah,
interesting. It's just another sign of the times, I guess. Another sign of the time. Colorways, new colors for controllers. Everyone wanted a black PS5 controller back when they showed off the white PS5 controllers, and everyone started photoshopping them. On June 11th, you will get your chance at a black one or a red one.
That's not.
I'm sorry.
Right. That's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And being colorblind, those controllers look the same to me. Like, I look at it and go like, where's the red? Midnight Black and Cosmic Red. And as a bonus here, the Cosmic Red is going to cost $5 more.
That's an expensive red. I mean,
it's nice.
It's a very fancy red. These controllers look nice. I think the existing controller looks nice though, and I already have 2 of them. So,
yeah.
I want to. Something's happening with
in your bowels, or
depends on how you look at it. But something's happening with my one. I think one of my PS5 controllers more than the other. I am accidentally firing off R3 in a way that I've never. Most notably in like RE8, I'm like, I something about. With the haptic triggers, I'm like pulling down harder or something, and I'm activating that R3. And in Village, I'm crouching all the time by accident.
Is it because the game is so tense that you're just like and tensing up and clicking the stick too much? Or
I don't know, but it also happened in Warzone. I would melee for no reason.
Now that you mention it, I was crouching by accident in Village.
By accident? What the hell's going on? Okay, now we have 50% of this podcast. No? Yes?
I don't have a PS5 yet, so it's,
okay, so
it's 2/3 of the
33%
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, I have not had any issues with my DualSense controller. But I also have not played Resident Evil 8, so it's a mystery.
Play Resident Evil 8.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's I want to say unscientifically, I feel like it's one controller more than the other because I do have two as well. But yeah,
No,
I've noticed it in a big way.
Huh.
Weird. It makes sense,
I've
right?
definitely seen an uptick in people complaining about the build quality of those controllers, or like having to send them in or repair them or whatever. I've seen a handful
out of the box
on the triggers. Is that what it is?
One of my touch pads. This guy was completely unpressable, and I had to push so hard and something snapped, but now it works. So I don't know if it was just like a piece of plastic lodged in there or whatever it was, or the molding was a little unsanded. But once I went crack, now it works. So I don't know what that is, but
nice controller.
Yeah, just pony up the $75 and get your Cosmic Red, and maybe they'll work better. Who can say?
Yeah, maybe.
Speaking of Warzone, they're keeping the 80s coming. They're going to put Rambo and John McClane into Call of Duty this month. The Bruce Willis model doesn't look amazing from what the screenshot going around that I saw.
The Bruce Willis model from Tony Hawk, is that what they've used?
Sadly, no. Or it's not. It's not even it's not the Apocalypse Bruce Willis. This is coming out on the 20th, and it will work in Warzone, Black Ops, and Call of Duty Mobile. I don't think that's one purchase. You probably won't get it across all three. Mobile is kind of its own storefront, but I assume the Warzone and Black Ops one will just be a one purchase thing.
Pretty generous on the hair for Mr. McClane as well. I just want to say, also you're right. It just looks a little sort of stretched out in a weird way.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Something a little weird about John McClane.
I got a bit of investigative journalism here. I typed in Bruce Willis Call of Duty into the internet and came across a Reddit post from a year ago where there's straight up I'm guessing that's a cop from the opening London level, and it's straight up Bruce Willis. And one of the commenters said, it's probably upcoming DLC.
Oh, weird.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'll shoot you the link.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's pretty crazy. It's all teasers, man. It's all teasers.
Yeah.
Backlaw, are you still playing a lot of Warzone? You playing any regular Call of Duty or just Warzone?
I bounced off that pretty abruptly, seemingly overnight. It was right around the time that they introduced the smaller map. When I just had enough of it. I was in the multiplayer for Black Ops for a while, doing that thing. But yeah, man, I'm just now that there is stuff to play, I have completely bounced. I'd say I haven't played that game in at least 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, I launched it when the new season started just to kind of get a look at whatever the new map was, and was just like, I'm not having a great time with this game. I'm curious to see what they end up doing the next game.
Yeah.
There was the talk about like those Vanguard rumors going around, or I don't know if that stuff got fully debunked, but that may be, well, we'll see where that ends up. That's how that ends up coming together. But
it was the first time that I did play Call of Duty, the previous one, the 2019 one, that I played that for an entire year, where I was playing that online. It was the first time I ever did that. When Black Ops came out, what is this? Not as many. Yeah, maybe 5.
That's definitely, It felt a lot more like my time with World War II and probably even Infinite Warfare before that. There was like, I played it for a handful of months and it was like, cool. But yeah, you're right. That's the thing. Modern Warfare, so goddamn good. Maps, super fun.
Yeah.
Just, what a game. It's the best that franchise has been in a really long time.
Definitely.
They got all the sound right finally. All this, so good. And lastly, a news story about a non-news story for an upcoming news story, something we'll probably talk about next week. But I just, it's been so long since this has been on our radar, and all the Blizzard news has been about people leaving Blizzard. But now, In a couple of days here, they're going to talk about Overwatch 2, a sequel to Overwatch.
Whoa. No, they're not.
They're going to make a sequel to Overwatch. No. Not this year. But they put out a release saying for whatever this stream is going to be, because they're handing off leadership of the Overwatch team. In addition to all this, because there's some personnel transitions there. But they say, from new maps to major gameplay updates, we're reinvigorating the core Overwatch experience. That's the quote that Polygon pulled out, and I'm very, I want to see what the hell. Like, I'm not a big Overwatch fan, but I was when it first came out, and some of the stuff they said about what they wanted to do with expanding Overwatch to make it a little bit more interesting for people that wanted more PvE stuff or co-op stuff or something like that, that could be cool. And so if they're actually saying that they're going to make major gameplay updates and reinvigorate the core Overwatch experience, I would like to hear that out, because Overwatch feels like it just is still quietly huge, but people are angry, or they're playing Valorant or whatever the hell happened, or like all that stuff. So it's been a little bit since they've talked about it. BlizzCon, I guess. Well, BlizzCon's not that far in the rear view at this point, right? But new Overwatch news. That's all.
Be interesting to see what angle they take it in, because will they? It just, I don't know. It felt like they went in an esports direction that sort of maybe left behind some mainstream video game players. Like, will they try to make this more of a Rocket League type game, right, where it just has a lot of people who casually play this game quite a lot? Because I don't know, I got the vibe, at least, that it got kind of hard for people to play it that way, to jump in and have a game kind of the way week 2 Gears of War multiplayer got. I felt that way. I played the hell out of that game before it came out, and then when it came out and it came back after a month away, and it was just like really difficult to get back into the swing of it. So
everyone started taking it extremely seriously in a way that I was not prepared to do.
It was hard to hard to play with characters. I don't know. You feel like intimidated to not pick someone you're good at because you don't want to let the side down or something.
Definitely, yeah. So anything that's going to let you get more time in with a character and experiment and figure out how stuff works, so that you might be more effective when you do decide to play with humans again, is probably good. But we'll see. That's coming up in a few days here, and that's it for news. Danny O'Dwyer, we're going to wish you a great week. You're going to dip out for the email segment this week.
Yeah, gotta go.
Next week we'll get all your we'll get all your Danny emails in next week.
Thank you. Taylor Swift tickets, Danny. Get those t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Tickets.
Yeah, we'll see if we can. They'll have questions and you'll give some dancers, I guess.
There we go. Don't say, Jeff, you can't say that. They're all going to
say that shit out loud.
No, because they're all going to think Dance is coming back now.
No, Dance is not coming back.
You can see the subreddit's going to kick off.
Right. Anyway, we're going to take one more break, come back with emails. Stay tuned. This episode is brought to you in part by Unleashed with the Dingo and Danny, a new podcast fueled by Monster Energy. Unleashed gets up close and personal with the best in alternative action and motorsports. Get ready for untold stories, career-defining moments, and inside secrets from the world's best athletes and trailblazers. Don't miss out on all the action. New episodes drop every 2 weeks on Mondays. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or watch on Monster Energy's YouTube. Unleashed with the Danny and the Dingo and the Danny and the Dingo. Fueled by Monster Energy. After years of all these fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if you learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. But with Mint Mobile, it's just premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. And you wonder, hey, what's the catch? Well, Mint Mobile says there's no catch. The secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. And by cutting out retail stores, there's no weird overhead costs that get passed down to you in the form of mystery fees. Instead, Mint just passes that sweet savings direct to you. If you're looking for extra savings, that's right. premium wireless at just $15 a month. All the plans at Mint Mobile come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can bring your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. And if you're not 100% satisfied, that's all of it. 100%, like full on. If you are not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with a 7-day money-back guarantee. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. All right. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/bomb. That's mintmobile.com/bomb. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/bomb. All right, we're back, and now it is time for emails. Mails sent electronically through the internet with power on the blockchain.
No.
Oh, no.
That's right. We're disrupting email by putting it on the blockchain.
We're minting original emails.
Yes. You can guarantee that whoever sent it. Pretty good privacy was fun and all, being able to sign emails back in the 90s. But look, we've got to waste more power. We've got to find a way to burn this motherfucker down a little bit faster. So,
okay.
Speed it up.
Minting these emails. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the email address where you would send an email like these folks have. Like Dennis from Kingston, New York, who wants to know, are Pokemon magic or is there a scientific explanation for their abilities?
I also want to know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So early internet lore of Pokemon is that this takes place post like some type of nuclear war type of deal where there's been radiation, and that radiation is like gone into like science and stuff, and the science is radiated and digitized the animals, turned them into Pokemon. Because if you look in your Pokedex and you look up, good old Pikachu, they say that Pikachu is an electric mouse Pokemon, but there's no mice, there's no dogs in the world of Pokemon. They're all just Pokemon.
Wait. No. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I've had it wrong this whole time. I was under the impression that Pokemon were living in harmony with other pets.
No.
So you're saying in the world of Pokemon, in that universe, the only animals we have on Earth are Pokemon.
Yep.
I kind of like that. I kind of think that's cool.
Yeah, and now you can directly communicate with the Pokemon, and even though they're just repeating their name over and over again, you feel like there's some level of understanding there.
I mean, it's better than what we're getting now.
Yeah. But the downside of this is that now that you're giving character to the Pokemon, you might feel a smidge bad when you have to cut open one to eat.
What do they eat?
Eating them?
What do they eat I mean, if you watched enough of the anime to say like what, because it's not like it's necessarily part of the. What do humans eat? I guess is what I'm saying. Like what's our meat-free diet? Is it all just cricket flour and rice balls and all that sort of stuff?
There's a lot of rice balls in the anime and like pastries. But I have seen something that looks like ham in a couple episodes. So I can only infer that it is like maybe they cut up a Snorlax and they made it into a steak. Yeah.
So is Pokemon like a real sort of secret vegan agenda thing, or is that? I bet there is like shades of Pokemon veganism, right? Is that a thing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, let's go with that. I think it's it's encouraging a vegan world, or at least a meat alternative world.
What are cows? Wait, so there's impossible
milk.
Pokemon.
Can you milk a Pokemon? Is there a cow-esque Pokemon that you can milk?
Okay, I need both of you to look up milk tank.
Milk is a different.
No.
Milk tank?
Yes.
Milk tank?
Yes.
Well, that's gonna just show me a milk tank.
Mill tank. Miltank. MILTANK.
Oh, okay. You said milk.
I apologize.
That's fucking got udders.
Yep. Look at that.
Ability. Thick fat.
Yo.
Yo.
This thing devastated 10 or 11-year-old Jan because in Gold and Silver, there was a trainer that used Miltank, and Miltank could drink its own milk. And
oh, God.
I've seen movies like that.
Yeah. Miltank could drink its own milk, its moo milk, and replenish its own HP, that it was almost unstoppable. So
that's
there are these Miltanks being milked somewhere in the Pokemon world.
Jan, I feel like I wish I met you 10 years ago.
The feeling's mutual, buddy.
Would have helped a lot.
Oh yeah.
Is this a sex thing? Okay. First of all, that's not vegan,
udders.
So I think it kind of
Okay.
They're not dicks. I mean,
no, I know.
No,
I'm aware. Yeah. But now you're just kink shame. Okay, all right. I see how it is. Jesus.
Oh no. If you want to kink shame, you should look up the Pokemon Lopunny, LOPUNNY.
GX? Why is there? What's a GX?
Oh, that's just like a variation of a card. And tell
it's
me
like a
that
balloon animal.
This is not a Pokemon that people would think about it. There's a whole generation of people out there that were really attracted to Lola Bunny, and those people made this Pokemon.
They want to. So people want to fuck this Pokemon?
I'm not going to say it, but I think there are definitely people that have thought about it.
Jan,
I don't see what I'm looking at. I don't understand what I'm looking at.
Can you give me, and it doesn't have to be an ordered list, who are the 5 most fuckable Pokemon?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the live stream is premium at least, so we can do this.
Yeah.
Lopunny's probably on there. Are we talking like 151 or like the whole 800?
I mean, if you go outside the 151, the likelihood that I'm going to know what you're talking about goes down. But like, do you, man? I'm not here to judge, except for the part where I'm here to judge.
Before you talk about fuckable Pokemon, I scrolled a little too far down in the Google images, and I now start to see Lopunny wearing things that clearly Lopunny.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can y'all see this?
Yeah, that's like.
Right. So this is a nose pass.
Hump was a Pokemon.
That's just an Easter Island statue.
I would put nose pass on that list of bangable Pokemon.
That wouldn't feel right. I feel like what is it?
Nose pass.
Probopass? Nose pass?
The one with the mustache that looks like Super Mario is Probopass.
Okay, that makes sense.
Most bangable Pokemon.
Man, I fucked up. I needed to get into Pokemon. I never did. Not that I want to like have Pokemon I want to fuck. That's not what I'm saying. But I just feel
that one's got. That's a Machamp. That's got 4 hands.
Yeah, this is like a Goro.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
get it. You'll be taken care of here, right?
It's hunky, like.
But I feel like it has a soft side, just in case you're worried.
There's just no way to know. I mean,
there's no way to know. Well, I mean, people have probably done
very
research.
Kissable.
Yes.
Yeah. You feel safe in the arms of this thing. I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe this one.
Okay.
What
is that?
If you like, this one is like a fox witch. Delphox. Yes. It's like a fox witch. And related to this generation,
I need to make Pokemon names. Like, I feel like that's a fun job.
I bet it's like one of those things. I bet it's something that people can only do for a set amount of time, and then they're tapped out, and they're like, "Yeah, I did my time on the Pokemon naming front lines, and it was too crazy, and I got burned out."
I did 30 and quit.
This is Greninja. It's a ninja, but it's a frog, and you think it's wearing a cool scarf, but it's a tongue.
It's it's a tongue.
All right. Yeah.
This just looks sloppy as fuck, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just looks like a sloppy Pokemon.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Can I introduce you to the concept of Licky Licky?
Yeah, you can. I'm into Licky Licky.
Most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me.
I mean, look at this guy.
Licky. It's just a taffy monster.
Yeah. I mean, you can hug it. there are things with the tongue that can happen, if you're into that, but I feel like you're going to have a good time. And then I think the most bangable Pokemon is probably Ditto.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, Ditto's
because Ditto could take on those
shapeshift.
Shapeshift, but it's just like a pink goo, and I feel like that's already something that people sell.
There's probably
like, what are those like water tube toys that like I brought up in the past, like what?
Like a water weenie?
Oh,
like
the water.
Yeah. It was
Ditto
like the
is just
first incarnation of a fleshlight kind of thing.
Yes.
Is that what you're? Is that? Yeah. Look, that's where my mind goes. Forgive me. Ditto just seems the creation of Ditto. Not to besmirch the legacy of Ditto's creator, but it just seems a little bit lazy. Like Ditto. I mean, I think the name is clever for what you're telling me Ditto is able to do.
Let me tell you.
What if Ditto's a splotch? Ditto is a fucking drip. Someone dripped some ink somewhere.
What if I told you
Pokemon.
Ditto was a failed experiment of cloning a legendary Pokemon?
Which one? I ask
Mew.
you.
They tried to clone Mew, trying to make Mewtwo, but then they got Ditto.
I thought they made Mewtwo. Is that?
They had a couple blunders across the way.
Got it.
How dare you call Ditto a blunder? All right, no, that's
man.
Okay.
I want to be a
next
Pokemon.
Question. Let's just move on.
The impossible pivot. Here we go.
Now, if we want to get into Digimon, then no one.
Hey,
no one wants.
I'm
to
living in a
Digimon.
Bakugan house these days, so we could talk about that later.
All right, are you living in a Bakugan house?
I mean, my kid is like obsessed with Bakugan in a way that
obsessed.
I'm not sure. Yeah, dude. I've spent hundreds of dollars on Bakugan shit.
All right.
Well, why is that bad? Is there some weird shit about Bakugan that I should?
No. I'm asking if you are fucking the Bakugan. That's all.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But there's no fuckable Bakugan. There's clearly there's fuckable Pokemon, but not fuckable.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's not be crazy. No one wants to fuck a Bakugan. Yeah. What are we even talking about? Nathan from Tumwater, Washington, writes in and says, "Hi, you have an experience taking care of plants, especially house plants. Are there any you find especially easy to take care of? Any plant you got to water? This was something that when my daughter was born, we stopped watering the plants because we were busy with other stuff, and then we were like, I guess we are not going to have plants around the house for a while because we are too busy to remember to do it."
I say the lower the maintenance, the better on your indoor plant situation. My wife is a plant person. She likes to garden a lot. We've got various amounts of flowers around the house, which is very nice. But the deer eat all of them. Yeah, there's deer out here. Yeah, deer in New Jersey go together like peanut butter and jelly. Let me tell you.
I had a skunk on my front lawn last night. That was fun.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a deer in real life.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh really? Huh.
Deer are everywhere in the Northeast.
There are a lot up here too. You get just outside of town, outside the city limits enough. It gets country enough fast that they got to put up signs saying like, "Hey, don't run into a deer when it's foggy."
Yep.
But it happens. John from Yorkshire writes in and says, "When I was a child, I was extremely concerned that the Earth was inevitably going to be swallowed by the sun and all of humankind consumed in fire. It felt like it demanded my immediate attention. As I've grown older, I realized that, whilst bad, it's not really my problem. What were you irrationally concerned about as a child?"
To give that concern some credit, that will happen one day. Mm-hmm. The sun will explode and
also,
gobble
it's not
up
your problem.
Yeah, it's not your problem.
Yeah.
That's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
What's an irrational thing?
For me, it was and we were talking about the 80s upbringing and all the just say no and anti-drug and drugs are scary and all this other stuff. There was a part of me that was worried that someone, and this is crazy, I think I've said this before, like that someone would come up to me and forcibly inject me with heroin, thus getting me addicted to it so that I would have to go back to him to get more. I was like 8 or something.
I think there was a world where that could have happened.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Where? Like maybe in Times Square in 1970.
And you fell over, and you're like, "Whoops! That needle's in me. Oh, geez. Well, this is all right. I'm gonna just sit here."
Like they did that right before they fingerprinted you. I mean,
yes, yeah.
There were a couple times growing up I thought I was the Antichrist.
Oh, that's pretty cool, Jan.
Yeah.
Go on. It can't just be that.
I think I was like really sick, and then there was a weird documentary on A&E, and that was the only thing on. It was either that or more SVU. So I went with the Antichrist documentary, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's that went on for maybe like 8 to 12.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you realized like it was true and embraced it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I mean, I have thought about making a fake online church, and I think I've mentioned it here several times.
What?
A lot of money be made in cults.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't want to lead people astray, but I would take their money.
It's big business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is irrational, like fears that you carried with you throughout your childhood. Is that what we're?
Yeah, pretty much. Or rational ones. What's the wildest thing you were afraid of happening?
My earliest memory when I was living in Queens with my parents was back then I was living with my parents.
Oh, this was a long time ago. All right.
So I'm like maybe 3 or 4. I was convinced that this panda bear stuffed animal was going to murder me. And it got to the point where they had to put it in the basement behind a locked door. So there was no doubt in my 4-year-old brain, and I would have nightmares. And even to this day, I can recall those dreams.
Wow.
This is turning into therapy in a way. But no, like that was my fear. So it could have been worse. But that was my genuine fear for a good portion of my young childhood.
Was it like something you watched or like?
Dude, that's the best question, right? Like, why did that bear become psychotic to me? Like, what about that bear with its smiley face and plastic eyes did I automatically assume was going to kill me? I don't know.
Right.
I just don't know. Maybe it was the dream. Like it's sort of like a chicken or the egg thing. Like what came first, the dream or the or the sort of like murder paranoia whilst awake? I don't know. I don't remember. But that's what I was left with.
So I used to have I can only trace this back to I must have watched a scary movie on this channel. But TV 44, Cable 12, KBHK, which is now well, it was the CW for I don't know what the fuck it is now, but it was just an independent station that showed good cartoons and whatever. But I must have seen a scary movie on there or something because I started having nightmares, and maybe I was awake for some of this stuff, but it was always hard to tell. That the logo and the voice that would come on and say TV 44 was coming to kill me.
Yes, that sounds.
Like a logo for a TV station. It was like this yellow, like bright emblazoned on black, and so sometimes, and in my mind, I'm awake here when I'm telling you this, but I probably was asleep, but I would see it appear on things at night. So like I had bunk beds, and I was an only child, but I slept on the bottom bunk, or I'd move around. Sometimes I get up on top, sometimes bottom, whatever. But like you'd see it on the wall. Like I'd wake up, or this would be part of the dream. I would wake up in the dream or whatever it was and just see it burning on the wall. And then at the end of a lot of their local programs, they would all say like, like they'd have like a production credit or a little logo at the end. And there was something that was called Field Communications, similar like color treatment and all this other stuff. And sometimes that would show up also. And I would have these dreams where I was trying to get up to go to the bathroom, but I was too scared and I would try to scream and nothing would come out. And then this logo would show up and attempt to, I don't know what it would, wouldn't attempt to do anything. It's a fucking logo, but I was just convinced that it was killing me somehow.
There's a common thread here, dude. Like there is something going on with like poltergeistian horror that afflicts children of a young age just by this small sample size, right? Like there is something in the wires. There's a ghost in the machine. I said, there's something happening there. That is exclusive to children under 10.
I don't know what it was, but you talking about the panda bear, it reminded me I had this stuffed monkey in my room, and then I don't know what had happened, but then I started thinking that there was like a secret camera in there and it was watching me. So I had to turn it around. And that was before like I, came across the trope of like nanny cams or whatever. But then it would freak me out so much that someone was watching that I just had to put the monkey away.
I suspect, was this like around nighttime or something, right?
Yeah.
See, I suspect a lot of this stuff is related to sleep. Because even to this day, my wife is convinced she sees things in the middle of the night. Like a couple times a month, I will be woken up to make sure a 6-foot spider is not, in fact, on the wall. So there is like weird shit that happens in the sleep time that just, I don't know, man. It is jacked up, but that's my suspicion.
Yeah, I would have a lot of bouts of like sleep paralysis. It doesn't happen as much, or it hasn't happened in a while, but and I've mastered it to a certain extent where I'm much more aware that it is happening and all that other stuff. And like, hey, just because it feels like you can't breathe does not mean you're not breathing. This is fine.
Right.
And I've been able to kind of work my way out of it, or at least get to a point where I can rely on my wife to wake me up and save me from that shit. But I mean, it fucking sucks. It sucks.
The sunken place, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for the email.
Yeah, thanks. Jake from Indy wants to know, if Windjammers 2 had guest characters, who would you like throwing the flying power disc? I think it's Tron. I think Tron is the right answer here.
A Captain America.
Okay, yeah. Krull. Maybe you give him the Krull blade as a bonus with that.
Oscar the Grouch. Oscar the Grouch just pops out of the can and just throws it.
Just throws the can lid. Of course.
He had arms, right, Oscar?
Yeah, he had arms.
Yes.
It wasn't just like a head popping up with the trash can, right? He had arms.
No, he had,
You never saw his feet, though.
No. So you did. You want to see some Oscar feet? I know a guy. But no. There's. I saw an episode where he was trying to go somewhere, and basically he was like sticking his feet out of the bottom of the can and walking.
Oh, shit.
And then he would, and then he would shrink back to, he'd go back down and pop his head out. Like he wasn't tall enough to do both. But like there are definitely shots of Oscar having feet walking with the can as the upper half.
Oh boy.
But was he ever detached from the can? Because I suspect garbage can is to Oscar as turtle shell is to turtle.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
He grew into it. Like the fibers connected.
Do not just Google Oscar feet. Oscar feet the Grouch.
See, you need to really train yourself to not just pull the trigger like that with searches. I trusted you with the Pokemon shit.
Well, I didn't expect you to scroll down. I thought you'd take the first 12 or so.
I scrolled too far. I went below 3 folds, and that's the problem. But I suspect Oscar's body drifted with the steel can at some point, and they are now one.
Yeah, that's got to be. They can't survive separated now. Like maybe in the 80s they would show it separately or something, but that time has passed. Maybe like one more here. This is some more fucking. This is some more 80s nightmare shit, I think.
Nice.
Matt from Finksburg, Maryland says, recently you talked about getting fingerprinted in school. For those of us in elementary school during the 80s, what was the deal with having to swish with fluoride? Someone who usually wasn't part of the school's immediate staff would come in with a tray of tiny cups containing fluoride, which we'd have to swish in our mouth for 30 to 60 seconds and then spit out. Then we'd have to put the napkin used to wipe your mouth into the cup to reduce the mess. What the fuck were we actually swishing? Were we some kind of Cold War experiment? Was it some kind of stimulant since U.S. schooling was falling behind? Were they already collecting our DNA? Thanks.
Where the fuck is this person from?
Finksburg, Maryland is what it says here. I don't know if that's where he went to school, but that's
This is one of the first this hearing something like this gives me a bit of relief, because it's like, that sounds some real old people shit. Like, that didn't happen to me. I'm not that old. Like, I didn't have to hide under the desk for the fake bomb drop drill that everyone always talks about. These people who are like 60 and over now. That I've never had that shit. Did you have that shit, Jeff? Tell me.
Yeah, we did. I did not. I never had to I never had to do a bomb thing, but we did earthquake drills because it's California, so we would get under our desk for those.
But not the fluoride.
Yes,
I think I did totally. The fluoride.
Yeah, like people fucking came to school with little cups, and you totally swish the fluoride. It's the same type of stuff that, like, a children's dentist would give you.
Yeah,
it was the same type of that type of fluoride treatment you would get at the dentist, but it was like I think they were like, we don't know if kids are gutting regular dentist trips, like that stuff can be expensive. Maybe parents can't afford it. So, hey, come get some fucking fluoride. I think that was the thing.
There's fluoride in the water. Is that the water and the fluoride is a thing, right?
Yes, I believe we have fluoride in our water. I don't know. That's not a nationwide thing, but I believe our water is fluoridated here in California. Yeah, isn't it just Jersey that doesn't do it because they're crackpots and lunatics?
It's just when I turn on my faucet, it's just syringes.
Yeah, it just comes out. It's just one big chemtrail coming out of it. Can't do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, we absolutely did that. We absolutely did that.
Damn.
Yeah. I only remember doing it once.
That's
I don't remember the specifics around it. I just remember. Yeah, exactly. Like you're supposed to keep doing that, but
there's something very like antiquated and fucked up about that kind of story. I think, just like, again, it is just like the fingerprint thing, which I understand where your brain would go with that, but
is it more fucked up if I tell you a priest made us do it?
Yes, it is more fucked up.
It might have been holy fluoride.
Well, how many cavities have you had? We can determine.
I've never had a cavity.
There you go. It was holy fluoride.
For real?
Yeah,
not
never
one.
Had a cavity. Clean as a whistle.
To this day.
Good
for you, dude. Sticking it to the man.
Yeah, I made it to my. I think I made it to my 30s with no cavities, and then when my dentist got popped for like tax evasion or something, and I didn't go to the dentist for a while, then I'd had a couple on the other end of that, but I did pretty good for a long time.
I made it far too, but then it was all downhill after a certain point. Yeah,
I feel like the last year has not been a great oral hygiene year for me, trapped in the house. So, and now like I'm trying to call a dentist and get an appointment. They're like, "Why don't you come in October?" And I'm like, "What?
You'll have teeth by then, still."
Yeah,
they're probably the most prepared for this. They already had the face shields and stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Yeah, no, they were taking people all along, but yeah, they've just now that the restrictions are getting a little more lax and people are traveling again, everything is getting crazy booked. But not the Giant Bombcast. The Giant Bombcast is here for you every goddamn Tuesday, and that's going to do it for us here. Jeff Bacalar, thank you for being here.
Of course.
And Jan Ochoa, thank you for being here. Danny O'Dwyer, thank you for being here. He'll be back next week. And Jason A. Stryker, wish him the best out there doing his thing on assignment. Hopefully see him again next week here. But until then, that's us for now. For you, take care. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.